Hello, 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 hello. Hey, good to see you guys. We're talking about some legendary monster designs today. That's what I've been working on. Let's turn off this starting soon thing. We done started. You guys let me know if you can hear me okay? And we'll get into it. I'll show you guys some spreadsheets and some other things and all sorts of cool stuff. Some design philosophy, all sorts of good things we're going to talk about today. And then maybe if we have time, we'll talk about some other questions and things as well. And I also had some questions of you guys. DM's favorite subject. All right, monster design. I love monster design. So sorry, just getting set up still. Audio check, audio check. Test, test, test. 1, 2, 1, 2. All right. So we're talking about the Nimble 5e legendary monsters, and I am wearing my Dungeon Master shirt. It should say GM, DM, whatever. I don't. It's the same thing. Loud and clear. All right. So legendary monsters in Nimble work a little bit differently. So you can run a legendary monster like Strahd, just as you normally would, just as written. He rolls initiative. He goes at this point in the round. He has legendary actions he can act after other players. He does his attack. His action is bonus action, and whatever reaction. So you can run monsters just as you normally would out of the book, whatever book that you're playing. But the legendary monsters or solo monsters are notoriously difficult for GMs to balance because the book might expect you to have 5 players. And if you have 4, well, he's going to be roughly 20% more difficult than intended. And if you have like 7, he's going to be a cakewalk and like a bit of a letdown. This guy that has been harassing you guys for the past, however long, this year-long campaign, you finally get to him and you kill him in 2 rounds. That feels pretty bad. That feels pretty bad. So the solution in Nimble, rather than like searching Reddit and like, hey, how do I balance this encounter for for 7 people or for 3 people instead of 5, or what if they're a level higher or a level lower? What can I do to fix that? That kind of stuff. Nimble sort of takes a different route, namely. Legendary monsters act after each hero's turn. And once you start thinking about it, I gotta say, artwork looks incredible. Yeah, this is a great one from Gerard, Justin Gerard. And this little guy is that big guy. He's going to be part of the adventure, an optional part of the adventure, I'll say. So as you're designing this, if the monster gets like this many actions or this many things every round, no matter how many other people there are, then all of a sudden it's very, very difficult to balance it. Because if you have like this many people, then he's way too strong. If you have this many people, then he's way too easy. So the GM has to do spreadsheets or calculations or fix things or fiddle with things or do research or just have a way too difficult or way too easy fight. Like the last thing you want, after like a 1.5 year long campaign, 2 year campaign, however long it is, for the final boss fight to be a cakewalk, to be a letdown, or even worse than that, a TPK. And not because like the party made bad choices, but simply because it was a poorly balanced fight, and you didn't know that. Oh, I have to search Reddit for the correct numbers and not actually use the numbers out of the book that I paid $50 for. Like, no, that feels so bad. As player, as the GM, like the last thing you want to do is let your players down, really. Yeah, his monster. So a lot of Justin Gerard's monster designs are so cool. He has a bit of a a little bit more out there style for some of them, but a lot of them are really spicy, really cool. More to come. So the big conceit with monsters and Nimble is that they act after each player's turn. So if say the legendary monster deals 5 damage after each player's turn. Then whether there's 1 player or 50 players, you don't need to change anything else. You don't need to change anything. You can run the exact same monster essentially, whether there's 1 or 100 players. Now, does it create if you have 100 players and if you're one player, do you have to like think about other things? Yes. But do you need to change the monster stat block at all? You don't. And if you're playing with 100 players, like everybody might not get a turn. So they would probably kill him before everybody got a turn. But you get what you get what I'm saying. Typically, it's going to be like if you have 3 players or 7 players. Like if you have slightly fewer, slightly more than is expected, it will still run just fine. And even at the extremes, like 10 players or 2 players, it's the math works out just fine. And here's if you guys want to see some of the back of the so it starts off as like very simple. Very simple napkin math, and then we get into like actual like fully calculated spreadsheets, um, and I'll walk you guys through the spreadsheet so you can see exactly how things are balanced. So this is the legendary monster builder that I've been working on. Legendary monsters are balanced to last long enough for heroes to each get a chance to do something cool, and short enough to not drag on for too long. So that is roughly 15 hero turns to get to the last stand. And another cool thing, the legendary monsters are tuned roughly to be challenging but not overly challenging until you get to 50% hit points, and then when they're bloodied, they get something cool that happens that sort of turns the tide of battle. And once they drop to 0 hit points, they're dying. So just like the heroes don't just die when they hit 0 hit points, they're dying. So they have like a small window to do extra other cool things. So it's the same way for the legendary monsters. So it takes roughly 15 hero turns to get to the last stand. So if you have 5 heroes, that's 3 rounds, which it might sound short, but like that's a good solid like combat encounter. So 15 hero turns to get to the last stand, and then 2 to 4 additional turns after that. So if you know roughly how it's being balanced, then you can tweak the numbers. So if I want it to go a little bit longer, you can increase the hit points. If you want it to go shorter, lower the hit points. Or you can do the same thing for the damage as well. So if you expect it, if your table just prefers like 4 rounds of combat rather than 15, you calculate it with 15, with 20 instead of 15. So it's roughly 15 hero turns to get to the last stand, and then an additional 2 to 4 additional turns after that. Legendary monsters will typically have like a set of actions to choose from. One that allows them to move, and this is something I'm tweaking. I was just getting feedback today about this. So this is how some of them are designed already, and some of them are a little bit different. So I wouldn't mind feedback on this. So legendary monsters will typically have 2 actions to choose from. One that allows them to move or has other utility and deals a small amount of damage. And another attack that deals big damage if they're already in position. So it is sort of this cadence of setup and payoff, setup and payoff. And once the heroes sort of learn this, then they can sort of they can like counteract it. It's very puzzle-like. And there we go. What a segue. A good legendary monster will feel almost puzzle-like. It should have abilities that the heroes need to figure out how to best deal with, and encourage the heroes to think differently, move, use teamwork to overcome. A good monster is not merely their stats. However, the following stats in the table down here should help when creating your own legendary monsters. The numbers are all based off of the party level, and they stay the same regardless of the number of the heroes in the party. If you've never been a GM or a DM, I just can't say how useful and incredibly helpful and good this is. Not needing to tweak monsters, or easily being able to tweak them if you want to, but not needing to tweak them based off of the size of the party. So this is the legendary monster stats by level. It may be tweaked a bit at the higher end, so like levels 8 and above. The lower end is tested and it feels pretty good. So a level 1 party, you probably wouldn't face a legendary monster at level 1, but just so you have the numbers, let's try at level 3. Like level 2, level 3 is probably the first time you'd ever actually experience a legendary monster. So if it has medium armor, you would expect it to have 100 hit points. its last stand ability gives him 30 hit points, so it's dying, and if it takes 30 more damage, then it's done. It dies. It might have 2 legendary resistances, and that the legendary resistances is actually one of the things that I wanted to chat with you guys about. But its attack, so its small attack will be 10 damage, and its big attack will be 20. So you can sort of see how the math works out really, really nicely. So every level that it goes up, the big attack goes up by 2, and the little attack goes up by 1. The last stand goes up by 10 hit points, and it's just really beautiful how the math worked out so consistently. And the medium armor goes up by 25, and the heavy armor goes up by some other amount, 20, I think. Yeah, 20. So those are just that is the numbers that work so far for all of the parts of the level curve that I've tested with this. It works great. These numbers are solid. So to put it in other words, the small attack on offense. So this is just another way to look at it. It is 10 plus, and actually I think it's changed just slightly. Yeah, so it has changed just slightly. So initially, so we did some testing yesterday, and I found out the numbers were just like slightly overtuned. It was, yeah, hopefully legendary resistance means something different than 5e. Yes, it does. It does indeed, but it's something that I'm considering just actually removing, just getting rid of it altogether. And I'll tell you why, or maybe replacing it with something else. With the way that things work now, I don't know that legendary resistances are necessary at all. Okay, but we'll get to that in just a second. Legendary resistance just suck. It's a band-aid. It's honestly a band-aid. And if we can just fix the systems behind it, we don't need the band-aid, right? If your leg is always hurting you, like you can take medicine, or you can like fix the leg. You like pull the thorn out of your foot or whatever, right? So the small attack is 10 plus party level. Big attack is just double that. Bloodied, you do something to shift the tide of battle. And then last stand, you gain this. So you're not gaining hit points. It's if you take this much more damage, then you die. They gain a terrifying ability that really makes it challenging. So like once a legendary monster is at 0 hit points, like they're incredibly scary. And then defense, medium armor, it's 25 times party level plus 50. I think it's been tweaked just a little bit, but these are the calculations. And then saves, you'll have 1 or more advantaged save. All right, so let's take a look at an example. For example, see below, Pudge the Blunderer. For a level 2 party, so this is a level 2 solo dumb ogre. So each legendary monster has, this is suitable for a level 2 party of any size. Okay, so it's level 2, whether you have this many or that many, doesn't matter, it's level 2. For level 2 party, he'll have 75 hit points, medium armor. So let's go over here. So 75 hit points, medium armor. So level 2, 75 hit points, medium armor. His last stand is 20. So there it is, 20. And then the bloodied value is just there. So because like while I was doing it, I didn't have it. Initially it just said bloodied, his damage increases. But then I had to like open up a calculator. Oh, what's half of 75? And then is it 35? It's not actually 35. It should be something else, isn't it? So when you're doing 37.5, of course. So I'll change that to 37. So when you're doing this much math off the top of your head, and it's late at night, it's hard to divide 75 by 2. So it's helpful to just have that there. So he has for level 2 party, he'll have 75 HP, medium armor, and 1 legendary resistance. Alternatively, it could be like an armored ogre of some sort, something with like a bunch of shields on it, or some big turtle monster. He might have heavy armor, and then 55 hit points. It's going to be roughly as survivable. It'll feel very different. It'll play differently, but he's going to survive roughly the same amount of turns. Okay, so no need to stick strictly to the stat guidelines though. So this stat guideline. So his small attack is 9 and his big attack is 18. His small attack hits for slightly less than average, and in exchange, his big attack hits slightly above rate. So 1d8 plus 2, so that's 4. So it's going to be roughly 6.5 damage. And then if you're damaged, you get knocked prone. And then grab and throw is going to be that much. So he'll attack you for that much. And on damage, they're thrown at another hero within 30 feet. And then they'll both make a dex save or take another amount of damage. So the base attack, this base small attack is slightly below rate because it has sort of like this other minor effect. And then his big attack, grab and throw, has this other ability. That makes it a little bit spookier. When he's bloodied, Pudge's damage increases to 1d12 plus 2. So all of the attacks deal the same amount of damage, but they feel different. This one is he's smacking you and he knocks you prone. This one he grabs you. So if he damages you at all, so if you block it, you're not grabbed. If you block all the damage, you're not grabbed. So if he rolls like a 2 plus 2, so if you're able to block 4 damage, you don't get knocked. You don't get knocked prone, or you don't get grabbed and picked up and thrown at another hero. So, and then the second one is 1d8 plus 2, and you both take that damage if you fail the dex save. Okay, when you're bloodied, the damage increases to d12 plus 2. So again, it's easier to run. And then last stand, and I've rephrased it. So this is how it's actually phrased now, because reset to 20 hit points feels bad. Like I thought I knocked him to 0. No. Pudge is dying if he takes 20 more damage, he dies. Until then, okay, so this is the verb, and the verbiage really matters. It changes how it feels. So as we were playing, my players heard me say like, okay, yeah, he dies, but he resets to 20 hit points, and it felt a little bit bad, like phrasing in that way. But if we say like you've knocked him to 0, he's dying. If he takes just a little bit more damage, then he's dead. Like that feels narratively better. And he has 1 legendary resistance. Again, that might be something that's just excised or just removed completely. So Pudge is dying. If he takes 20 more damage, he dies. Until then, Pudge can move 30 feet and use grab and throw each turn. So he can either move and make a little attack, or he can make a big attack if he's already in possession. So this is a simple way for it to work. So 75 hit points, medium armor, saves. He's a big ogre, so he's got an advantaged strength save, and he's a big dumb ogre, so he's got a disadvantaged will save. And then a quick note about using 5e legendary monsters. You can run 5e legendary monsters as written, just like other monsters, acting once per round, simply rolling their damage dice to see if they hit or crit. However, you can easily adapt them to act after each player's turn, like Nimble legendary monsters if you prefer. So there's going to be like 10 or 20, a dozen, 15, something like some like double-digit number of monsters, legendary monsters, as examples in the Nimble in the GM book. But if you wanted to say like an adult black dragon, like you can fairly easily do it. It's not going to be as tuned or as accurate as a Nimble monster, but it's going to be fine. It'll run just fine. It'll run just as well as like the adult black dragon in a 5e encounter, which is like hit or miss. So the monster design in 5e is just one of its weaknesses. Everybody's dead. So swinginess is fun. Like swinginess is fun, but like swinginess is not a whole lot of fun. So rather than that, it has Acid Breath as a single use ability, and then when it's bloodied, it gets to use it a second time. So when you know exactly how it's going to use its attack, this breath attack twice, then it's much easier to tune it to the level of difficulty that you want. Either easier for like a more narrative story, you're not going to accidentally TPK everybody, or it's going to be more challenging for a group that really likes that kind of thing. Instead of its multi-attack, after each hero's turn, it can fly up to 80 feet and make a bite, or it can make a claw and a wing attack. For last stand ability, it can choose twice each turn. Very scary. So very, very simple. You can just sort of run it on the fly without changing anything. Don't worry about any other fiddly things that it does, but that is an adult black dragon, just converted. And it's going to be close enough to where it's going to feel just like a regular 5e encounter. All right, so let's take a look at some questions. Armin, does the last stand effect always occur? Yes. When it drops to 0, it enters it makes its last stand. Bruno Potello, I wrote about. So I guess I should read from the top to bottom. I got to fight Pudge with a level 1 party yesterday. It was real close to a TPK, but we won with no deaths. He had 6 minions with him. Yeah, so the previous Pudge was different. This one is tweaked just a little bit differently. I wrote about it in Battle Report on Discord. Awesome. I'll check that out. Very, very cool. We've been doing legendary monsters. Twin Steel says we've been doing legendary resistance as more of a legendary recovery effect starts, but the creature expends some resources, burns out skills. Yeah, so that is the advice that I have here. Legendary resistance. This is a special ability that lets legendary monsters negate the effects of any single action. So succeed in a failed save, ignore damage from a single attack, or resist some other effect that's neither of those two things. etc. Using them almost always has a steep cost, both narratively, like a terrible scar or an appendage being lopped off. Like if you're fighting a beholder, like it uses one of its legendary resistances, like you lop off one of its eye rays or something, or one of its eye stalks. And mechanically, they might lose their next turn or suffer some other setback to compensate the heroes. So that is the idea in Nimble. Yeah. So currently, that is what the idea is. If you use a legendary resistance, then the heroes are compensated in some way. They skip a turn, or their armor is decremented one step, or something like that. But again, the way things are working out so well, I don't think it's necessary, or I'm not sure that it is necessary. Yeah. So that's exactly what we're going for, Twin Steel. If you take out Save or Suck, in the spells, legendary resistance aren't really needed. Yep. I found that to be the case also. In a lot of the effects that, like stun effects, it's like stun them till the end of the next turn. Well, if the legendary monster is acting after each player's turn, like they're still stunned for one round. Like it's still like skip the turn. So it's still really good, but it's not game breaking. Where like the heroes get 5 turns before the legendary monster can take another turn. So just go ahead and stun the guy. Like you stun him for a turn. Like that feels pretty cool. Yesterday when we were playing, one of the players used pinning shot with the hunter, and he pinned the monster, and like he was just like stuck there, and it felt really good. Like it wasted one of his cool abilities, and like it was pretty solid. The cool and nimble. Monster loses 1 turn. It's good payoff, yeah. Hopefully there's resistance. Bruno, good evening. TPK'd at level 9. Now they're one of the Shadowfell. Nice. Cool. So Paul says, it still feels like party size would be a big factor. 1v1 trading punches with a BBEG, you'd never last 15 rounds. So with 1 or 2, so at 1 player, it is different. But there are rules in the core rules to where like you wouldn't ever just play with 1 player, because like tactics do matter. Like being able to interpose and spread out damage is like really part of the game. It's part of the system. So if you are really just playing like 1 player and 1 GM, then the GM would give the player a sidekick. And once you have 2 players, all of a sudden, and initially we did test it with just 2 players, and it felt pretty much fine. It was like slightly more challenging, but like not as much as you would think. But 3 or more is like it's flat. It's completely flat. So yes, 1 is an extreme example. You are right, Paul. But across like, if the 1 player does have a companion or a sidekick, then it should feel pretty much just fine. And there's also rules here for an easy. So legendary monster stats by level. For an easier encounter, use the stats 1 or 2 levels lower. More challenging, 1 or 2 levels higher. So if you wanted to face Pudge, but like, I'm going to throw the level 3 version at them and see what happens. It's going to be slightly harder, but not overwhelmingly so. So that is a super handy way to tweak the difficulty for your table. Is there going to be any math behind the bloodied bonuses, or just a small power up? I may. So the bloodied thing is basically so it should be as valuable as like 1 free big attack is sort of what I'm calculating. So this bloodied thing is if he's going to get 2 to 4 more turns, then like a little bit of additional damage it feels about right. So that is about right. So it's usually like a minor thing that they recharge something, or they get 1 big attack or something like that. It probably could use a codification just a little bit more, but the abilities in things that are in the example monsters should be enough. But you let me know. Bruno says, I think legendary resistance in Nimble is great. Okay, the compensation for players is worth it. It might be, but also if it's not needed, then if we don't need it, then we don't need it. Well, if there's not a whole nother system that's needed, and it's just redundant, then like I'm fine leaving it. Monic. I don't fully understand the table. Level 2 is 9 damage per turn. But okay, so let's take a look at it. 1d8 plus 2 is is 4 plus 6 damage on average. The second ability looks like, yeah. So above here on in the text here, it's for the hit points and the armor, we in the legendary resistance, we followed exactly how it is in the chart. But I do explain no need to stick strictly to the stat guidelines. His small attack hits for slightly less than average, so you did notice that. Slightly less than average, and it would actually be 1d8 plus 2 is on average 4.5 plus 2, so it's on average going to be 6.5 instead of what is it supposed to be 9, because it also knocks prone. Right, so they'll either have to spend an action to stand up, or the next attack he gets is going to be with advantage, which will sort of cancel out some of this sort of stuff. So his small attack is slightly below rate, and then his big attack hits slightly above rate. So you can lower the hit points, increase the damage, or increase the damage of one and decrease the damage of other. So it's there's sort of sliding scales. As long as it's like somewhere in there, you're going to be fine. I wouldn't increase all of them, otherwise it's just going to be a flatly more challenging encounter. So if you want the big attack to be like a little bit weaker, but the weak attack to be more consistent, then like you could do that as well. So these are sort of guidelines. This is a starting point to see like if your legendary monster at level 5 is actually dealing like 50 damage with its big attack, then you know, okay, it's way overtuned. That is hitting as strong as a level 18 thing, if that makes sense. Lacrimel, gotta go. All right, hey, thank you for all the thanks for joining. Thanks for all the good feedback and stuff. Okra, just joining. Hey, Okra, you are delicious fried. Actually, I don't like okra fried. But that is the thing people like. I'm not sure if this is what already asked, but how many rounds do you suspect combat will take on average for lightning round? Great question. So it is rather than rounds, it is based off of hero turns, because it is made independent of the number of heroes. So roughly 15 hero turns. So if you have 3 heroes, that's going to be about 5 rounds. If you have 5 heroes, it'll be about 3 rounds. So the math is based off of a per turn thing. So how much damage is the legendary monster outputting per turn? Fried okra is the best. All right. So it's based off of how much damage the legendary monster can sustain himself per turn, as well as how much he can output per turn. And I'll actually show you guys some of the math if you're interested in that kind of thing. Let's see. Numbers. Legendary monster calculator. All right. Let's see if we can see this. And I'll zoom in. And this isn't all of it, but this is like just to, oh, you can't see it. This is just sort of to show some of my thinking. So this first table is just sort of with the base stats. We have party level 1 through 20, the max damage per hero. So the damage output is calculated off of casting the flame dart cantrip. So the D10 cantrip 3 times. So if you're spending all of your actions casting that is on average the typical maximum damage you're likely going to do. I know it changes, and there's a lot of assumptions, and there's special abilities, and sometimes you'll miss and you'll do less, and sometimes you'll this and that. Yeah, of course. So that is the max damage per hero per round, per turn. And then we have the hero damage per turn. So like the more actual, the expected damage output. So the expected damage output per hero is they are on average going to be spending 2 of their 3 actions attacking. So one of the actions is going to be moving or defending or interposing or doing something else. There's a lot of assumptions, but on average that is what it's going to look like. So this is this times 0.66. And then we have average hit points per hero. So this is just, so we're taking so at level 1, the mage is going to have 7 hit points. On average, the berserker is going to have 20. So the average of those is 14. So taking the average hero hit points, the average hero armor, and then the effective hit points per hero. This is a weird calculation, but it works. And then we have the other different things going into this. Hey, Absol, good to see you. And then I pipe that into this table. So there's another table over here. So number of players, number of rounds. So number of rounds. So the number of players was just for other things. So this is the number of turns that we want the fight to last. And then there's a multiplier for medium armor and a multiplier for heavy armor. So if you have light armor, you deal 1 damage. If you deal that to something with medium armor, on average, you're going to deal 20% less. And against a creature with heavy armor, on average, it'll be 40% less. So again, rough numbers, but this is enough to get us to the ballpark where we can start playtesting. So we pipe those numbers into here. So if the heroes are able to output that much damage over this many turns, then this is roughly how many hit points they should have at level 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, etc., etc., etc. Their last stand hit points, their small attack damage. So initially it was 11 instead of 8. So we tweaked those just a little bit. The damage was just slightly overtuned level as well. And then we have the damage where we ended up. So that's roughly how we got there. There is another very, very large spreadsheet that I have that I'm pulling some of the other average numbers from, where we did like battle simulations over hundreds of thousands of iterations. So it's not just that, but that is just sort of like a brief look into how, like, sanity check into the numbers. Chud, hey Chud, good to see you, man. Okay, so let's take a look at some of the monsters, and we'll see what's going on. So Grimbeak, the Unyielding, 100 hit points, armor medium, and I think we're going to be abbreviating some of these things, and I do have it up where we talk about monsters, just to double check. So the GM controls monsters in combat, etc., etc., etc. So most monsters are unarmored. Some creatures are tougher to take down. Medium armor, just the dice. Monsters with medium armor, M, ignore all damage modifiers from stats and other effects, taking damage from the sum of the dice only. Heavy armor, H. So I think that's, we're saying heavy armor, medium armor enough times to where I think it's useful to have that kind of thing. Octopus asks, what is the effective hero HP and why is it so high? Is it factoring in them absorbing a bunch of damage with armor? Let me pull that up. That is a great question. Yes. So that is assuming a certain number of blocks per encounter. So it is the 8.4 average of the armor multiplied by the number of rounds that are expected, and then we add to that the average hero hit points. So yes, that is how we get to that is the effective hero HP. So not every party is going to be able to block that much. Some parties are going to heal instead. Other parties are going to do like they're going to apply, like a party with a Songweaver can apply disadvantage more frequently. So using the actions to reduce the damage by an approximately equal amount over the course of a few turns, but effectively it's going to be that. And you might have healing potions and other things. So not everything is taken into account. Some things are ignored at the high end, and some things are averaged out at the low end, and it gets us to the number that we're looking for. But there's a lot of other numbers that are happening in the back end. So yes, if you multiply 8.4 times 15 and add 14, it is roughly or exactly 140 for the effective hero hit points. Okay, so let's go back down to legendary monsters. So we have Grimbeak, the Unyielding. 100 hit points, medium armor. His strength saves are advantage. After each hero's turn, choose one. So rather than so initially it was like he had two things. He can move and make a little attack, or he can, like, if he's already positioned, make one big attack. So I did tweak it just a little bit. So Savage Screech, there's a one-time use. Creatures within 90 feet take 2d6 psychic damage and are frightened for 1 round on a failed will save. So it's just 1 round, but each creature has different ways to mitigate damage to soak up actions from the heroes as well. Either moving them around, forcing them to move back to you, or forcing them to move to run away, or fear and other things, knocking prone, dazing, all that kind of stuff. Or he can move up to 40 feet. Make a beak attack. So actually, this is one that is using the older paradigm, which I think is okay. Move up to 40 feet, beak attack for 2d6 plus 3 damage, or he can rend and tear, attack for 2d6 plus 3, And I think I've been just removing like what damage type most of it is, unless it's unclear what kind of damage it is, because yeah, a beak would slash. Like I don't need to say that. Just like we don't need to say like, and slashing damage is damage that, blah, 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 blah. Like we don't need to describe what slashing damage means. Like you're cut, right? Rend and tear. So he attacks twice. So attack for the same amount of damage. So you all you need are your 2d6 or your 3d6, your attack with disadvantage. So all you need is that. So it's the same amount of damage, but then you repeat. And you can knock prone if both damage the same target. He is bloodied at 50 hit points. Grimbeak immediately uses Savage Screech. So he's going to scare people. They're going to be frightened. He's going to deal AoE damage. So it's not a lot of damage. It's going to be like 6 damage. But it's psychic damage. It can't be. This does matter. So psychic damage, it can't be blocked. And they're going to frighten. He's going to frighten some dudes. And then last stand, Grimbeak is dying. 30 more damage, and she dies. Whoop, she dies. Until then, Grimbeak's attacks use D10s instead. So it's not going to deal an incredible amount more damage, but she's less likely going to miss, which is, I think, an important. She's less likely going to crit, which is good for the heroes when they're getting low on hit points, but she's also less likely to hit. So her damage increases, but it becomes a bit more predictable as far as the critting and missing. That's why, aside from most of the wind spells, I'll just say deals damage. Yes. And it's not obvious that wind deals slashing, and I might just remove the slashing and blood from it, because wind could deal bludgeoning damage as well, or even piercing damage if like there's like little bits of sand in you, like you're getting sandblasted. Does damage type have any importance for damage resistance? Yes. So for some creatures it matters. So for like Dravok, the Beholder, the Eye Tyrant, he does. He is. I'll show you guys that in a second. So this one isn't done yet. Ravager of the Lowlands. So this is the guy in the tin. He's pretty spooky. So level 5 Solo Manticore, 150 hit points. Special ability, Feral Instinct. Whenever he is crit, he can fly up to 50 feet. So if he crit once, he can just fly away. So like, if it's Berserker, like he's gonna have to like go run and chase him down, or you have to spend more actions to move and do different things. So he's a lot more mobile than others. After each hero's turn, choose one Venomous Stinger. This is a one-time use. Reach 15 feet, but it's hits for a truckload of damage, 5d12 damage. So it's right at the cusp of like too much damage, but it's one-time use. And with art that's like doing this, like it's got to be a big wallop of a damage. But I know, because of the numbers that I've ran, that it's going to feel about correct. It's gonna hurt, but it's going to feel about right. Ravager can fly 50 feet and attack once, or he can just attack twice. There we go. When he's bloodied, his Venomous Stinger recharges. When he drops to 0, he's dying and has 50 more damage until he dies. Until then, whenever he takes damage, he can fly up to 50 feet and make a single claw attack after he lands. Okay, so those are some of the simpler ones. Let's go down to, I want to show you guys one that I'm currently working on. So this one, this is, the art is obviously temporary. So this one's obviously temporary, but we can. So I started developing this before I had the table of all the numbers, and most of the numbers were sort of like intuition. And surprisingly, most of them were very, very close already, which I was pretty proud about. But I know that he's going to be a level 11 dork. We've got 9, 10, 11. So yeah, he's going to be a level 11. I might change his name. Psionic Despot. Medium brain-eating aberration. So let's go ahead and pull up the. Can I do this? Actually, I can just grab this, take a screenshot. Probably not the easiest way to do it, but this is the way I'm doing it. Take a screenshot of that. Go back down to this guy, and we'll sort of finish building this guy, and I'll take you through. So the first few legendary monsters are pretty straightforward. Like, they deal damage when they're bloody, they deal more damage, and at the last stand they deal more damage, right? So, but it's like it's different flavors of damage, and it's like kind of cool. And as you level up, as the monsters get spookier and spookier, then they do different kinds of things. Will plus plus. Oh yeah, generic brand Psionic Squidman. Yeah, legally distinct. Okay, so this is going to be a level 11. So just to keep me focused, we'll just do this. Level 11. So this is all we need. I guess I need to know what everything stands for. So I'll do this, and then scooch this down. There, look at that. Look at that. So here's level 11. Actions. After each hero's turn, choose one. If no creatures are dominated, so this is another thing that I'm testing out. Basically, like treating the legendary monster as a flowchart. Like if this, then that. If not, then this, right? And then like if this, then that. Like so, the GM doesn't have to think as much. They can use their brain energy for like role playing and tactics and other things. But I don't have to decide like amongst these 10 options that I can do, which am I going to do, right? It's a little bit overwhelming. So like as cool as Flee Mortals is, like I'm not smart enough. I'm not smart enough to run those monsters properly. I love it, but I don't think I've ever ran. I don't think I've ever ran a Flee Mortals monster, like legendary monster, properly. Like there's always something that they could do that I forget or do wrong or something. And then when you have like more than one guy and they're all doing their own tactical thing, it's too much for my brain. So something I was thinking was adding this kind of thing. If no creatures are dominated, then do this. If a dominated creature is adjacent, then do this. Else, do this. So that kind of flowchart type of thing, I think would be interesting. Okay, so this guy. So more on that. More on that later. Venomous Stinger deals poison or piercing damage. It's up to you. I would probably say, maybe if it's like 5d12, I might say like 2 piercing, 5 poison. But you can separate that out however you like. 90% of the 95% of the time, it's not going to matter. But if you have some guy who's like resistant to poison, like that'll make him feel great. Like it'll help at least. It'll help them. It'll help take the edge off just a little bit. Okay, so let's check his hit points. So he has neither medium nor heavy armor, but I'm going to treat him as if he has medium armor because he can do other things. So this guy's gonna be a little bit trickier to balance, but I think we can do it. So he's gonna have 300 hit points, armor none, saves a will ++. He cannot not save a will save. Okay, so after each hero's turn, so I would like some feedback on this kind of thing. Is that helpful? Is that not helpful? 3 options that's not a whole lot of options, but like if I can do anything to make it easier, then like I kind of want to. But not if it's unneeded. So if no creatures are dominated, dominate half of the heroes. Round it down. So again, it's not just one hero. It's not 5 heroes or 3. It's like half. If there's 7, it's round. What is that? It's going to be 3. So dominate 3 of the creatures, or 1 creature, or you can dominate just 1 creature, and they'll roll with disadvantage. And maybe that should say with advantage. So you're doing it. So you're doing it with advantage. I'll think about that. Okay, so you can dominate half the heroes, or you can focus all of your psionic powers on just one and make it extra hard for them. So they're gonna dominate half the heroes, or become dominated on a failed. Here, I don't think we need to say it twice. Dominate half the heroes on a failed DC 16 will save. I think that's all that's needed. Dominated. So if they're dominated, they make attacks and saves against you with disadvantage. Okay. And at the beginning of each of their turns, you spend one of their actions making a weapon attack or casting a cantrip. Ends when they take damage. So this right away is a pretty spicy ability. Even if they got no other abilities other than these 2, that is pretty spicy. So right away, any attacks that they make against you, they're with disadvantage. So the chances you're going to be crit are very, very low. Much lower that you're going to be crit. So the fact that he has no armor doesn't matter as much. But also for every dominated creature, that you get to also spend one other action. So instead of 3 actions, I get to spend one. Hey, you make a swing your weapon at that guy, or hey, cast flame dart at your buddy. So I'm using your actions to damage you, which feels like really on brand. But it's not so much that I'm taking away agency completely. They still get to roll their dice. They still get to take the rest of their turn, but it's just sort of taking the edge off of it. And there's ways for them to come out of it on their own once they figure that out. So how do I get undominated? You have to figure it out. You can assess, or you can do research on this guy, or you can just take damage and then you learn it as you fight. So maybe like they are attacking. Like eventually they start working groups, and like one guy will attack another as meekly as possible. Like maybe they'll just punch him to deal as little damage as possible to end the domination, to like sort of snap them out of it. Okay, then we have, if a dominated creature is adjacent to you, you can grapple them. This is a contested strength or dex save, but because they're dominated, they're going to roll with disadvantage. So he doesn't get advantage on his strength or dex save. So he's not particularly strong, but he's smart. So he's going to dominate you, and then he's going to try to grapple you. So against an adjacent dominated creature. On success, consume. Deal 5d12 slashing damage. Again, we don't need to say slashing damage. That's dumb. Deal 5d12 damage, and it's probably going to be different than 5d12. It's probably going to be a good bit more than that. Cannot be defended or interposed against, which is a big deal. And then teleport up to 40 feet. Then control. Spend 1 action of a creature making a weapon attack or casting a cantrip on a failed DC 16 will save. Okay, so you target someone, make a will save. So this guy doesn't really have attacks of his own. He's not a strong creature. He's not a strong creature on his own, but he makes the party attack themselves, which feels like completely different than all of the other kinds of things that you might have. All the other kind of creatures you might face. Making a dominated PC interpose for the monster against other PC attacks is what you would do. Okay, yeah. I don't want to go that far, because like if I'm a mage and I spend like 5 mana on this really big spell, like that feels real nasty. That feels like probably too bad. Like we're leaving the fun, interesting, like spicy zone and moving into like the feels bad zone. It's like I think that is probably too much, because it takes away their interpose for the rest of the round if they wanted to do that. And like you could really mess them up, like probably too much. And so that's too much. Like spinning 1 action is fine. He's got no armor. He's just like a weak little dude, and he doesn't really attack for much. So like this is his damage that he's doing. So that might be a little bit too much. So we'll check the numbers in just a second after we read the rest of the rules. And let me just show you like the rest of the art. So it's pretty sweet. Like he's sort of like floating. He's got like tentacly little dudes down here. So the blue is my notes to the artist. The artist on this one is Orlan. So like make the face tentacles a little bit a little more tentacly, and then like maybe add like a cloak or something that's like trailing behind him. So that's what that blue is, if you're wondering. So yeah, there's a lot that's involved with art. So bloodied, he gains illusory shift. And if you guys know Trekairos, Trek, he's got a pretty sweet YouTube channel. He helped me develop this guy. So he was a co-author on this particular monster. Bloodied, gain illusory shift. Reaction, if you would be damaged, swap places with a dominated creature, making them the new target of the attack. So that is what you were talking about, Bruno. But this is a one-time thing, and it's only once you're already like almost dead. So this is a one-time thing. And then the last stand, when and again I'm going to rephrase it, but when he's reduced to 0 points, he emits a blast of psychic energy. Every hero makes a will save or is dominated, and it no longer ends when you take damage. So that one is super duper spicy. Let's check the damage. I suspect that it is lower than I want it to be. Okay, so which is so he's going to dominate. So this action deals no. It deals no damage immediately, but it does deal. So on average, you're going to get like 1 or 2 heroes, and 1 or 2 of them are going to save. So you're probably going to deal. So this is probably equivalent to a small attack. So dominate, I'm going to count as dealing roughly 18 damage, and that sounds about right. By level 11, by level 11, you're going to roll 1d10 plus 10. Yeah, so it's going to be roughly 18 damage. A little bit less, probably. It's like 15.5 damage by the time you're level 11. Yep. So that's exactly where I want it to be. A little bit less, but sometimes you'll get 2 people. Sometimes you get 1. Sometimes you get 0. But you're taking one of their actions away from them and using it against them. So dominate is going to be the small attack. Grapple and consume, we want that to deal 36 damage. So probably we want this to deal a little bit more than 36. So let's go to let's go ahead and pull up my favorite website, Dice Run. So I'll go and pull that up for you guys so you can see how I actually make the calculations. Properties, window, dice.run. Okay. Can you guys? There we go. Yeah, you can see that. Okay, so we've got Dice Run here. So it's just a website called dice.run. You can see right there at the top. So let's type in 5d12. And can you calculate this yourself? Yes, obviously you can calculate this yourself. So on average, it's going to do 32, 33, 34. It's going to do that much damage most commonly. It could deal up to like 40, 50 damage, which would be like, oh, like so much damage. It could deal as little as like, 15 or 20 damage. But most likely it's going to deal somewhere in here. So this is the probability. So 5, 10, 15, 20, 25. So it's like half the time it's going to deal this moderate amount of damage. So 5d12, let's go back to our document. So what did we say it was? On average, it's going to deal like 32, 33. We want it to deal 36. Okay, so actually that is a bit pretty close to where we want. So I want it to be just a little bit spicier because you need to be dominated. You need to succeed on the grapple save, and then you do this. Okay, so let's go back to dice.run. Let's do 60-12. Yeah, so 38, 39. And how it does this is it actually runs a simulation of 10,000. It runs a simulation of like just actually rolling it 10,000 times. So values between 6 and 72, but the odds of getting 6 or 72 are like non-existent. And then we have a damage curve pretty close. So the low end is probably going to be around 36, 34, 34, 36. And the high end is going to be like 44, 45. So right in there, that's a very spicy hit. By the time the heroes are level 11, they're going to have anywhere from like 40 to 100 hit points or so, like give or take. So hitting for that much it's gonna hurt. It's gonna be rough. Cool. What thoughts? What questions you guys have so far as we keep tweaking this little guy? So this is going to be considered the light, the small attack. This is going to be considered the big attack. And then this one is teleport up to 40 feet, control. And this is going to just be like a second alternate light attack. So this, if no creatures are dominated, if someone is dominated, then you can use this if no one else is if there's no dominated creature adjacent. So maybe you'll teleport up to 40 feet, like next to a dominated creature who's not going next. The dice side is still up. Thanks for letting me know. So this one, small attack. This one, big attack. This one is just like a secondary small attack when these two do not apply. And when he's bloodied, he gets to do something pretty spicy. And then last stand, his thing just gets a little bit more challenging. So this one, he still does need some playtesting, but I would expect the playtesting to reveal that he's slightly too weak or slightly too strong, or like this ability is too weak, this ability is too strong, like that kind of thing. But the rest of the numbers are spot on. So that is what I expect the playtesting to do. Cool. All right. Any other thoughts or questions that you guys have? Does the chart give percentile ranges, i.e., 50% of the time damages between? Are you talking about Paul? Are you talking about Dice Run, or are you talking about the chart in the guide here? The chart does not give percentile. It doesn't give like reasons why. It just sort of here's the numbers that you should expect. Dice.run it doesn't do it exactly, but it does say like the chances of you getting like at least 30 the chance of you getting at least 42 damage is 40%. It's like it'll tell you like how frequently you should expect at least this much or at most this much. So the chances, so like the 90%, the 90th percentile for this is going to be like 49 damage. So like 90% of the time you will deal no more than 49 damage, if that makes sense. So it's super helpful for that reason as well. It can show you like the distribution of it. So like whereas if we just have like 1d12, it's more linear and more flat. But if you have like multiple d12s, or if we have like d4s, the curves just look like very, very different. Cool. All right. Cool. Glad that was helpful. All right. So let's take a look at see what else we can go over. Any other thoughts, guys? Let's take a look at Dravak, and I've got some art. I think it might be revised just slightly, but I kind of like the direction that it's going. So we've got like a dude here about to get gobbled up or zapped by Dravak, the all-seeing tyrant. Like bludgeoning damage isn't gonna like do all that much, like magic damage, like whatever. But piercing and slashing damage, like okay, piercing and slashing critical hits deal double damage against him, which I think is a really cool, spicy way to get across that fantasy. So he has this cool ability, which is my favorite. Like these two abilities, I think, are my favorite. My plan's flawless. I make all say, and again, this is something that I was playing with, flavoring all of the legendary monster stat blocks as if it is the monster themselves, like telling you what they do. So like Dravok says, I make all saves with +1 advantage, and +1 advantage is something another turn of phrase that I've toying with testing. So +1 advantage. Attacks against me have disadvantage. I kind of like how that feels like, because I'm reading it, I'm the GM, and I'm playing the thing. So my plan's flawless. I make all saves with +1 advantage, and attacks against me have disadvantage. So like he sees everything, he knows what's going on. He's like this maniacal, paranoid dude. Like he knows what you're gonna do. He knows where you're gonna bob and weave, and his plans are flawless. Okay. So it's hard for him. It's hard for him to be critically hit. In other words. But if he uses his legendary resistance, or if something else happens, or I'm not sure what it's going to be. It may not be legendary resistance, but if he uses it, Dravok's Dravok's plans are flawed. His special ability is suppressed for 1 turn. So like he no longer imposes disadvantage. He no longer has advantage. So that kind of stuff. He already has his bloodied ability at all times anyway. So yeah, so a lot of these things. So this was just recently updated to this. So yeah, this is going to change to something else. But yes, so this guy, after each hero's turn, so this one is like halfway. He's like halfway through one revision of draft. So yeah, Kev, you're not wrong about that. So after each hero's turn, move up to 30 feet and choose one. So I can't do like a choose two. So let me show you, where is she? This one. So she says after each hero's turn, choose twice. So you can choose move. You can move, shoot. Shoot, impale, or impale. So you can choose twice. For this dork, for this guy, choosing twice is too much, because all of his attacks are ranged, or most of his attacks are ranged, and they're really, really strong. So rather than that, it's move and choose one. In the initial playtest, it was you can move or you can attack, but the players were able to too easily kite creatures, where like, oh, I know if I move, then they'll have to move, and they won't be able to attack me next turn. So it was too easily gameable. So move and attack is needed, rather than just a move, or move and some other thing. Basically. So he has terrible maul. So like if you do end up getting too close, he is just a ton of piercing. So like look at all those teeth, like 10d4 piercing damage. Reroll any 4s and add to the total. Eye rays. So you'll roll 1d6. So a 90-foot range, you'll choose a random ray. Oh, and they are they're sort of in a ascending order of how bad they are. So if you roll a 1, like ooh, that's really bad. DC 16 strength save or gain the dying condition. So you just drop to 0 hit points right away. If a dying creature fails this, they die or on a save gain 1 wound. So that's the death ray. Gravitation ray, 2d6 bludgeoning, and moved that many 5-foot squares. Knocked prone on a 7+. So if you roll a 7 or higher, you're gonna be knocked prone. But this is something you can like grab someone and like slam them into a wall. So it's only do 2d6 damage. But if you roll 7, and they're like standing right next to a pillar or something, you're gonna roll another 7d6 damage. You just like smash them hard, like as hard as you can into the wall, and then they land prone. If you roll snake eyes, then they'll just move 10 feet. So they'll if they're right against something, it'll be like 1d6 or 2d6 additional damage. So gravitation ray is a real big damage dealing one. But you can also smack 2 heroes into each other, and they both take that much damage. Charm ray, a DC 16 will save, and again, all the DCs are the same. It's easy to remember. It's easy to play. I think the damage dice might be homogenized, so they're all going to be D6s or all D10s or whatever. So I might combine some of those just to make it match the rest of the monsters. So it's even easier to run. You don't have to search for like a bunch of different dice. Charm rate DC 16 will save, or you control them on their next turn. You can't spend their mana or their other class resources, but they get another turn after that. So you get to like move them around, and it might not be like control them on their next turn. It might just be like control them. Yeah, like spend 3 actions for them, and then they can act as normal during their turn. A fear rate DC, so there's no save here. It's just a 60-10 psyche damage on allies within. So 60-10 psyche damage, and the numbers will change, of course. All allies within 30 feet have disadvantage on all attacks. Fear breaks when Dryvac is crit or uses a legendary resistance. Petrification ray, so like oh he bleeds. 10d6 is greater than 60-10. Terry says this is one of the videos I'm going to have to watch back. I missed the last hour, but super interesting. Cool. Yeah, Terry, I go over all the numbers and spreadsheets and all sorts of stuff. So yeah, if you have any questions, feel free to let me know. And I'll just scroll up real quick so you can take a look at the monster builder. So this is the spreadsheet. It is organized by level. So this is the party level. If you're making a level 16 encounter and you want him to have heavy armor, so he's going to have 335 hit points. When he's dropped to 0, he's going to be able to withstand another 160 damage before he actually dies. He's going to have this many legendary resistances, which may be getting removed. And his small attack will deal this much. His large attack will deal this much. So super easy to sort of put together your own guys. Or if you wanted to run a Psionic Despot, but you don't want to have to wait till level 11, he'd be perfect for this level 5 encounter. You can reduce him down to a level 5 pretty easily with those numbers as well. Hey, Edward. You just left the movies. Hey, all right, cool. What'd you see? So we got the fear ray. He makes you afraid until you can crit him or do some other cool stuff. Is the open license beholder called a placeholder? Nice. I can definitely appreciate fun. I've been converting some 5e monsters. If they have multiple saves, I made them the same DC and put it up top with the monster. Yeah, that's cool. That's not a bad way to do it. But if it's something like this, where it is like that, I'd rather just have it in line rather than like, okay, we'll save, and then I have to look up here to see what the actual save is. I can just read it out to the player. DC 16 will save, and then like blah blah blah, and we can do the thing. And then 5 is a petrification ray, dazed until you receive magical healing. 3 stacks, petrified completely. Warping ray. 2d6 force damage, and then you exchange places with the target. So very low damage, but you can swap places with any target that you want. Bloodied at 110 hit points, and so it's going to change. So I don't think 110 is correct any longer. But he's dying, so he can move and use another action. So instead of that, it's probably going to be that his DC goes up to like DC 18 or something. And I'll just go ahead and make that change because it's probably what's going to be his save DC to 18. So he doesn't get anything back, but his abilities are harder to resist. So he's going to more consistently deal damage. Edward, this live is worth the watch. Hype for the gym books. Yeah, cool. All right, awesome. Super Slash Man, the Christopher Reeve documentary. Okay, cool. I didn't know there was a documentary. I'm so out of the loop on movies. Like the last movie I saw was Dune 2, and then the last movie I saw before that was Dune 1, I think, or it was probably the D&D movie. So the 2 Dune movies and the D&D movie are the last 3 movies I've seen. Before that was probably like Avengers Endgame or something, like way back in the day. Okay, Warping Ray is pretty sweet, and then Last Stand, he's dying. Blah blah blah. So yeah, so you can clearly see this is like halfway between. I just pasted the text for Florindris, the floral dragon. You see her aura of the wind. But he gets Devastation Beam. I like that. After Dravak, blah blah blah. So initially, what I was going to do was make the hit points for each legendary monster much lower, but because their legendary resistance is able to allow them to like shrug off the damage of any attack, like a legendary monster doesn't die until all of their legendary resistances are spent. I don't like how that feels. Like just being able to say like, no, your damage doesn't count. It feels a little bit too like fudging dice. It feels a little bit too GM Fiat. So I don't like that. So initially it was after Dravak has expended all of his legendary resistances. In other words, all of his eye stalks have been chopped off. He has no more eye stalks. So like when his special ability is flawed. So and initially his legendary resistance said one random eye stalk is destroyed. So like the idea is he's like chopping off. You're chopping off one of these eye stalks whenever you crit. So instead of that, so after Dravak has expended all of his legendary resistances, instead of that, it's going to be he can use Devastation Beam. So each turn he's going to use Warping Ray and Devastation Beam. So he's going to be much harder to pin down. So he's going to be able to swap places with someone and then like real big damage. So this one needs a lot. He needs a lot of work. This is very much halfway between alpha and the revised thing, but I wanted to show you just some of the things that are in progress. So writing things in first person, as if it was the monster saying this, I think is pretty cool. I might do that for all of them. And then +1 advantage, and like having funny things like this, like my plans are flawless, my plans are flawed, and like the ability is suppressed. I really like the flavor of that. Alien Romulus was great. I didn't have to have even heard of these movies. You could just be making up movies for all I know. I love the chart. Building his Nimble is so simple. Yeah. That's what I'm going for. That's definitely what I'm going for. And again, you can, and you know what? Something that might be really helpful for the chart. Let's go back to the chart. A DC thing. Like what should the DC be? So, save. So I think I'm leaning toward removing legendary resistances. So the save DC for these guys, what should they be? So I'll figure that out. I'll have to run some numbers. But let's go ahead and get in. Let's go ahead and get in like some good rough numbers. So at level 1 and level 2, like 8 is supposed to be an easy DC. 8. 8, and then I think probably every 4 levels it's going to increase by 1. I think is roughly what it's going to be. Maybe a little bit more aggressive. Yeah, let's just see what that looks like. 10, 10, 10, 10. Because every 4 levels is when you get. Yeah, this is probably going to be too generous. Every 4 levels you get an additional stat increase. So yeah, this is probably far too generous. 13, yeah. 13, and then 14. Yeah, 14. 14 DC, save DC is way too easy at level 20. So it's probably going to increase every third level. Let's see what that looks like. Oh, the first person descriptors, cool. Yeah, appreciate that feedback. It will have to look a little bit different than the regular monsters. The regular monsters are formatted so that you can fit like a whole fighting group on one page, so you don't have to like flip around or like make notes and rewrite things. So like monsters that you're gonna be using together should be like together so you can see them. But the solo monsters, like, they can sort of be in their own page, so we don't have that same restriction. But I like having like just 2 bullet points, like do this or do this. I do like that. So one might influence the design of the other, but every time I touch something, I'm trying to make improvements and tweak things and stuff. But no, I'm definitely not sold on that. It may change. Having generic DC is very helpful, yeah. In my experience, you can save a 12 DC fairly commonly already in level 1. Yeah, so the saves are... So I assume you're talking about 5e, Bruno, but maybe you're talking about Nimble. So saves in Nimble are a bit more difficult because every hero has an advantage and disadvantage save. So someone who has that as a disadvantage save, like even a 12, would be very, very, very difficult. So it's a little bit different, but not too different. So I think at level 20, like a DC 20 is I think DC 20 is appropriate for level 20. 20, then 19. 20, 19, 18, 17. Let's see how this feels. So right now, it is definitely just going by feel rather than like the numbers. But I'm gonna see if I can run the numbers and get it more exact, so it's less just like seat of the pants. 16, 15. This feels pretty close though. 14, 104. Oh, that'd be bad. 14. And then we'll do 13. Come watch Evan type. 12, 11, 11, and then 10. That feels about good. Yeah, that feels legendary monster. So 10, 11, 12, all the way through 20. That feels about right. I don't think you're ever gonna fight a level 1 legendary monster unless you're taking like a really super duper slow level up path. Like we've been playing for 6 years and we just hit level 2, like that kind of thing. DC's user guidelines and skill checks section. So so a save for a legendary monster is a bit different. It is a bit different, but yes, it's using that like 10 generally is just a success. 8 is very easy. So I think have a legendary monster having an easy skill save or a save DC is probably not that good. So 10 as a medium and then 20 as sort of the cap, the limit, I think is about good. Let's talk about Nimble, actually. Oh, no, okay. The disadvantage makes it hard, but I think even if you have disadvantage, you can still save fairly okay against an 8. Yeah, probably. 12 becomes a challenge. Yeah, you're not wrong. As my experience, maybe we're rolling. Yeah, so whenever possible, it's good to use your experience as an initial, like, this feels about right, and then, like, the math to test it. Because, like, if it works for you in a group over, like, 2 or 3 sessions, great. But if there's going to be, like, 1,000 people playing this, then like you need a much bigger sample size, and the math is what helps with that. 10 to 20 feels pretty close. But if he starts talking Hunter, could you ping me on Discord? If you want to chat Hunter, then we can maybe chat about that in a little bit. You guys been cooking up some cool stuff? Let's check it out. Cool. All right, so save DC. So I don't think there's any abilities where legendary resistances are needed, and I think just without that, it makes the stat block much simpler, much easier to run. One less thing that I have to figure out doing. Like when they do it, it works, and that feels more heroic. All right, so I'm going to go ahead. I'm just going to make the executive call of where we're dropping legendary resistance. It may come back in the future, but right now I can't think of a good reason to keep it. It doesn't mean there isn't one. But the way skills and spells are in Nimble 5e, there's not the same kind of like there's just not a need for that kind of thing. Watch you type and listen to your wonderful voice. All right, that's right, Edward. But it'd be cool, Evan. We talked a lot about the class the last few days. Cool about Hunter. Yeah, we just did some pretty good playtesting with Hunter yesterday, so I'd be happy to give you guys some insights on how that went. Lots of great ideas. Some more difficult to explain than others could join voice here. Okay, cool. And maybe we'll end the stream on YouTube before we get to that, and we can like move it to Discord, maybe if that's easier. But I don't know. We'll see. I wouldn't mind keeping things so that other people can watch them later. I think seeing the development process is interesting to me. At least I like watching other people like make things like making an RV or making this thing, building a house. Like I like figuring out how people do things. It's just something that I'm super interested in. So I'm going to just call it now that I'm removing legendary resistances. I'm going to take a screenshot of it. I'm pretty sure we don't need it. And there was I had a lot of heartburn about how to like phrase it and make sure it's so much GM advice is surrounding legendary resistances is like, make it not suck. Like, please make it not suck. Yeah, going after each hero's turn is like super good, like super duper good. All right, so we'll go and we'll drop legendary resistances for now, and maybe it'll come back, maybe it won't. We'll see. I think between the last stand and the bloodied abilities, I think that probably more than makes up for it. Okay, cool. So before we go over to before we talk about the hunter or some other things, let's see if you guys have any other questions. Let's just go and compare. Let's compare what the legendary monster stat block looks like compared with the regular monster stat blocks. Just so we can sort of get a feel for it. That's too big. Okay, so first of all, do they feel like they're from the same book? I think they feel like they're from the same book. Maybe they could be tweaked a bit, but yeah, they feel like they're from the same book. Maybe instead of like this gray, we can change it to like this double piped type of thing. I kind of like the symbolism here. But I do like utilizing the space here. So like most of the names are going to be shorter than the width of the book. And since I know the legendary monsters are going to take up this much space, that like being able to use this more efficiently, I think feels pretty good too. But it's choose one, this or this, choose twice, this and this, or this and this, or whatever. And then yeah, I kind of like how this feels. I like how this feels. So let's see if there's any thoughts or questions before we move on to some other topics. Tiny Tactician. Hey, Tiny Tactician. Hey, I watched a video about the game, and I was wondering if you could explain how attacks work. If you roll a 1 on the damage die, you just miss, right? Yeah. So if you're attacking, I don't know what happened on my dice. Oh, my dice are gone. Oh, I took them up. I took them upstairs to do playtesting. So say my attack is. So let's go over here to. All right. Let's say I've got a dagger. So it's a 1d4 plus dex. And I'm a rogue, and I've got, or a cheat or whatever. Yeah, I'm a rogue. I've got 2 decks. All right, so 1d4 plus 2. So I roll the die, and let's go over to dice run, just so I can. I like to show people things whenever possible. So we got dice run. So let's do 1d4. There we go. So 1d4. So I rolled a 2. So 2 plus 2 is 4. So I'll deal 4 damage. Let's roll again. I rolled a 1. So it misses. I deal no damage. Let's roll again. 1. I missed again. That sucks to be me. I rolled 3 ones in a row. There we go. I rolled 4 ones in a row. 3, so I'll deal 5 damage. I'll deal 4 damage. I'm trying to see, and I'm gonna roll until I get a 4. Oh, come on. It's broken. There we go. All right, so 4. Now I crit. And actually, it's probably easier if I do 1d4. It's probably easier if I do it here. Okay, so let's roll a d4. Come on, let's get a 4. 4. Oh, come on. There we go. Okay, so we got a 4. So on a bad dice. So we got a 4 here. So I'm going to do a 4 plus 2. So it's a hit. But when you roll the maximum, it's a crit. So I'm going to add another d4 to this. Oh, it's another 4. So exploding critical hits. So I'm going to roll another 4. I'm going to roll another d4. So 11 plus 2. So I dealt 13 damage. Okay, so that's how critical hits work. So if it's a d4, on a 1 you miss, on a 2 you deal that much, on a 3 you deal that much, on 4 you crit, you roll that die again. So if it's a 1, if you roll a crit and you roll like, man, I'm rolling hot. I'm rolling hot, guys. So let's keep going. Okay, there we go. Wow. So exploding critical hits is like some of the most fun you'll ever have. Like the chances of rolling like 4 4s in a row is like astronomical, but like, it feels so good. It really feels so good. So even if you roll a 1 here, like it's still added to it. So only the first die determines whether you hit or miss. So yeah, that tiny tactician is how that is how the attacks work. Yeah, it is a lot of fun. It's so much fun. So rather than missing 50% of the time, which is like roughly what it comes to in 5e, if you roll a 10 or higher, you hit. If you roll a 10 and you lower the 10, you miss. That's basically what it is in 5e across the level curve. There's weird pockets where things have AC that's way too high, AC that's way too low. But in 5e, you're missing roughly 50% of the time. And that just sucks, especially when you can only do that one thing on your turn. Like, I miss, like your turn. Like that feels really bad. So rather than that, the lowest hit chance you're going to get is 75%. So with the D4, you're going to hit 75% of the time, and you're going to miss 25% of the time. And there's different things you can do to like re-roll and add things and give yourself advantage and sneak around. You can do things, but on a D12 or on a D10, you're gonna hit 90% of the time. Like only if you roll a 1 are you gonna miss. So it self balances the different weapon sizes. So the larger weapons still deal more damage on average, but because they're going to miss less, but also they're going to crit less. So in 5e, the line is like it's very straight. So like the bigger the weapon die, the better it is. Period. Right. But in Nimble, the curve is much more like this. It's a much more flat curve. So the D4s still do less damage than the D12, which it should, but the damage curve is much like it makes a D4 D6 weapon like feel like a really interesting choice because it interacts with armor differently and certain abilities trigger when you crit and other things. So like certain classes really want to hit because they deal extra damage from other abilities. They don't care if they crit. They just want to they just want to not miss. So they're going to pick the biggest weapons they can. So it makes the weapon choice all of a sudden like really interesting, and every weapon is really cool for different instances. Yeah, so hope that answers your question, Tiny Tactician. Thanks for joining us, man. 100%, you don't need legendary resistances with going after each turn. Totally compensates. Yeah, I found that to be the case. I don't think there was a single time where I wanted to use the legendary resistances. Last time I was playing, the last few times I was playing, and every time I did use them, it just felt bad. So I don't need it, and it felt bad when I used it. So I don't think we need it. I don't think we need it. Wesley, I don't speak that language. Is that Spanish? Did he show the hunter at any point? I like the ranger, but she is horrible in all systems. Wesley. Oh man. Not yet. Not yet. We're about to talk about the hunter. Not yet. We're about to talk about the hunter. Not yet.
Ainda não estamos prestes a falar.
Ainda não.
Ainda não estamos
estamos
prestes a falar sobre o caçador.
Caçador. I hope that helps. I hope that helps, Wesley. From a graphic design perspective, stay on YouTube, please. It's nice to be able to watch it later. Okay. Terry says, from a graphic design perspective, I like the gray in the iconography. Spacing and layout makes sense to differ between the two. Okay, sure. Oh yeah, Bruno, bunch of ones. That was pretty rough. Missing in D&D can sometimes feel disappointing. Do you feel that action points help with that? So there's no more action points. Do we have a bunch of Brazilians here? A bunch of Portuguese? All right, welcome guys. Brazil. I forgot what I was talking about. So it's no more action points. It's just actions. So instead of like action, bonus action, move, it's just you get 3 actions. You can move 3 times. You can move once. You can attack twice. You can attack 3 times. It's just more flexible. I love how everything sounds in Portuguese. Nice. And Portuguese is cool. I speak a little bit of Spanish, but that didn't look like Spanish. I'm using Google as my dice roller from now on. Google is pretty sweet. Yeah, You got to make sure you turn on DM mode though, and then it'll only roll spice. Oh, Bruno. All right, we got a bunch of. Okay, I guess Bruno answered that for me. Tiny Texture. I play a lot of board games, and that is one of my favorite mechanisms. One of my favorite games does that. Oh, cool. What game? What game has it? One of my favorite. I think it's more fun for a hybrid game. Yeah. It makes things like chaotic, like super chaotic. Like in 5e, like they'll say like, oh, speed up, to speed up play, just like take the average damage. Like no, if the heroes know they're always gonna take 7 damage, then like they can plan around that. But sometimes it's 7, but sometimes it's 21. It's rare, but like man, that gets them like sweating and moving and leaning forward, and like it really like changes it. So it doesn't happen all the time. It happens rarely enough to where you're not worried about it. But misses and crits, like, oh man, one more hit and I'm dead, and then he misses, and everybody's like, just like it's crazy. Or like, I'm gonna survive as long as he doesn't crit 3 times in a row, and then it happens, and you're like, oh, right. So that is just like that's just amazing. He's speaking Portuguese. Yep, speaking Portuguese. Didn't think I was doing that. Okay, let's see this. All right, I hope you guys are not typing anything bad. Already talking about Nimble high level. So most of the testing has been at like relatively lower levels, the levels that are more commonly played. So like levels 1 through 10. But before we ship it, everything will be tested at the higher levels. But the numbers for the higher levels match what is expected at 5e. So like a level 9 spell does roughly the same amount of damage as a tier 9 spell in Nimble. So the damage curve is basically the same. So any testing we do at higher levels is just to see if we can improve on the balance in 5e, rather than no, Bruno. I was just saying that because I was like copying and pasted it into the translate. I was hoping I wasn't getting rickrolled or something. So yeah, the testing at the higher levels is really just going to be to see if we can improve on the gonzo nature of 5e. All right, so let's take a look at the heroes, since you guys want to talk about the hunter. So Bruno, could you paste? Actually, I think could you someone send me the link to the chats about the hunter you guys have been having? I'll pull it up and we'll read it together on. I'll pull it up. How to drop the stream a bit with legendary resistance being removed. Is there something to help legendary monsters defend themselves against things like unspeakable word? Unspeakable word. Out of all of the abilities, that's probably the only one. It's probably the only one that is that kind of spell. So unspeakable word, tier 6. So you have to be level 12. So chances of anyone doing this, it's not going to happen often. Target within 60 feet dies on a failed will save. So actually that's fine. because legendary monsters they gain the dying condition, so they drop to 0 hit points. So the fight isn't over yet. You just like you skip right to their last stand. So I think that's okay. That's perfectly fine. If they succeed, you drop to 0 hit points instead. So there's a big enough drawback. Target has a disadvantage if they're bloodied, advantage if they're unharmed. I think that would actually work perfectly fine. Critical Pixel. That's probably the worst of the spells in terms of like save or suck. But the way that legendary monsters work, I think it mitigates that enough. And +1 spell save DC for each additional mana spent. It's pretty good. It's pretty good for a tier 6 spell. At most you get 6, 7, 8, 9. So most you can add is 3 spell save DC. So it's not that good. I think I'm okay with that. Like that would make some memories. We'll just say that would definitely make some memories. Twin Steel sent me a link. Okay, cool. Warhammer Adventure card game and Fortune and Glory are 2 board games that do this. Awesome. Warhammer Adventure card game. Man, I love me some card games. Are you a graphic designer by chance? The game layout? Yes, I'm a graphic designer. So I went to school for animation, and animation jobs are hard to come by. Okay, so let's take a look at the Discord links. By me. And can I just open that copy link? Nice. Okay, so yeah, I can just pull it up. I'm gonna share it so you guys can see it also. So I'm not just like, you're not just listening to me read. Okay, cool. Class ideas. Nice. Okay, so there's links to all the other things. I could jump in the voice chat and Discord. Yeah, Twin Steel, go ahead and hop in. Let's see, what's the best way to do this? Can I just give you a voice call? Let's see if this works. Is this gonna work? All right, I'm ringing you, Twin Steel. I went to school for animation, Terry says. Oh, cool. Worked on Spirits Die in the Cimarron and 8 Crazy Nights. Nice. Financial institution to pay for my kids' college. Yeah. So, Terry, I started in animation, did that for a while, like government contracts. Hey, Twin Steel, hey. All right, give me 1 second. Yeah, give me 1 second. I think I can pull you into advanced. I think I can pull it in so that we can hear you. Properties. I don't know how to do it. I might need to add audio capture. That desktop audio, application audio capture. There we go. And then go down to Discord. I'm figuring it out as I go. So.
No worries.
All right. So everybody go ahead and type in chat if you can hear Twin Steel. And Twin Steel, if you want me to use your name, you tell me your name. Otherwise, I can just call you Twin Steel.
Yeah, I like Twin Steel. I think I feel in this community, I feel like that works better than my real name, which is Ross.
Okay, Ross. Nice. Makes me think of friends. Okay.
Exactly.
Cool. I'm just gonna turn it down just a little bit. Twin Ross. Oh, no, Ross Steele. There we go.
Sounds like some thriller.
Yeah. Okay. So the thought that before I saw any of your feedback, the first playtest with a boss at least, there were just not enough thrill line charges. It was just not enough. So the initial thought that I had was tweaking it so that whenever your quarry attacks you, you gain a charge, which like thematically makes sense. As you're being attacked by this thing that you're supposed to be hunting, them attacking you like gets the adrenaline going. It makes you think. So that sort of feels thematic, and it adds utility to like the taunting strike and some of these other things. It gives you a reason to interpose, that kind of stuff. So you have control over when it happens. So that
Yeah.
feels like a pretty good way to do it. But let's see what we have here.
Yeah. So you definitely clued into one of the big things we've been talking about over in the hunter section, which is like, how do you generate thrill of the hunt charges when there aren't minions around?
Yep.
Based on it's you got to kill them, and minions are like the clear target for that. The
Yep.
other thing that we've been talking about is armor penetration, but like we can talk about that afterwards.
Yep.
So I'll tell you a few different ideas have come up. Bruno, Double King, Chud, myself, and other people have thrown out some good ones. I will tell you the ones that I can remember perfectly because I have got I don't have my computer with me, but I have my phone. So Bruno had some great ideas here. I linked that, so you should
Yeah,
be
I'll go
able
ahead
to
and
click
click
on
on. All right, so I got that.
Bruno's idea.
Nice. Bruno, we're looking at your ideas, man. So you want me to just go ahead and read through it, and then you can sort of fill in the
That would
blanks?
be great. That would
Okay.
be
Bruno's
great.
suggestion, level 2, Thrill the Hunt. Choose 2 Thrill the Hunt abilities. Gain 1 charge whenever you roll initiative, and 1 whenever your quarry dies. Gain 1 additional charge if you kill it in melee. These charges are lost. Okay, so that's the same. Let's finish this. If you have no Thrill the Hunt charges, treat all melee attacks as if your target is marked at the end of your turn. Okay, so I guess the italicized part is added. If your quarry is the only enemy on the battlefield, whenever you crit using this ability, gain a Thrill the Hunt charge. If you have no Thrill the Hunt charges, okay. So Bruno, if you want to type in the chat, if your quarry is the only enemy on the battlefield, I'm getting some feedback. Twin Steel. If your quarry is the only enemy on the battlefield, whenever you crit using this ability, gain a Thrill of the Hunt charge. So is that why you can gain a charge while you have none? So is it connected to Thrill of the Hunt, or is it connected to Let's Finish This, Bruno? Or Ross, if you want to jump in.
Yeah. So my understanding is that for Bruno's, it's a I'm trying to juggle between these different things. There we go. So if you're doing Let's Finish This, like it's normal Let's Finish This, but on top of that, when you in addition to what normally would generate it, if you crit, you also get another charge. And you know, if that feels too much for you, there's this rider of, well, if you crit, and it's kind of the solo enemy on the field right now. Um, um, that could rein it in. If you felt like, oh well, it's too much. If you every time you crit, then you get it. Then it could be, oh well, if you're fighting one guy, then every time you crit that one guy, you get another charge in addition to. That way, it's not just you have to kill that one guy.
Gotcha. Okay, yeah, so Bruno just said, sure, it is connected to Let's Finish This. When you have no charges, you can generate only when there's one enemy left. Okay, so we don't buff the hunter where they don't need it when the battlefield is full of weaker enemies. Okay, that's interesting. Yeah, so yeah, my concern with that was, and I don't know if there's a way to like hide this sidebar in Discord. I'm like super like not great with Discord, but if it is, maybe you'll be able to see this a little bit better. I zoomed in some. So my concern with the idea of gaining charges on a crit, or gaining charges like something happening when there's only one enemy on the battlefield. My concern was that it would be awkward to phrase, like it'd be weird to say it, but like reading how you say it, like it seems elegant enough. So if we did that kind of thing, I would probably have to simplify. Like you don't gain a thrill of the hunt charge when you roll initiative. It's like you start with 0 resources and you build them up as you hunt this guy. So I would have to like having like 6.5 ways, and like these ways only work like under these circumstances. Like it's hard to track. Like it's hard to keep track of like how you gain them and when you gain 1 or 2 or 3 or. So I like the idea, but this would we need to like streamline something. But the idea is cool. The idea is cool. Yeah, it's not as unwieldy as I initially thought. Cool. Okay. You want to read level 3, or do you have any other thoughts on that?
The level 3 one, that's got more to do with the armor thing that we would like to talk with you about. So if you want to just talk about Thrill of the Hunt right now, then you can jump on over to my idea. That's in there as well under my idea.
Is it this first one, core hunter issues?
Oh, so that really just that part just describes what we've been talking about, like why it's important to address this. But you already know that.
Okay.
It's the so go back to me here. Go back to there, and so just below, great idea from Bruno. You have my idea.
My idea. Okay, gotcha. Okay, my suggestion goals: keep it nimble, obviously. Grants a level of consistent armor penetration. Okay, improve the hunt generation, especially. Okay, yeah. So all of those, yeah, sure. Avoid overwhelming damage. Okay. Change level 1 hunter's mark action.
That's more to
Creature.
do with the level one is more to do with the armor. If you want to skip that for now.
Okay, yeah, we'll skip that for now. 2 thrill hunt. Choose 2 abilities. Blah 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 blah. Gain 1 if you kill in May. Okay. So instead of that, once you have no thrill hunt charges, gain 1 charge for every time you hit your quarry in melee. This ability ends when you use a thrill of the hunt. Okay, yeah, so we wouldn't need it here because whenever you hit it, you're gaining 1 already. This ability
Well,
ends.
so the idea would be the yeah, exactly. So it wouldn't. I crossed the thing out up there because the new thing that this idea would posit like once you're out, you enter into the for this conversation. You enter into the let's finish this mode. You run in, you start hitting them. You know, maybe for 2 rounds, you're lucky enough to get 2 or 3 hits in, and then but during that whole time, you can't use any of the thrill of the hunt abilities if you want to keep going on let's finish this. So you could generate 2 or 3, and then if you want, you can decoy out of there. But then you're done. You don't until you run out of thrill of the hunt charges. You won't be generating anymore through that method. So it kind of gets you that goal you had of I'm out. I'm going to run in. I'm going to do a lot of stuff, and then as soon as I top off a little bit, I leave. And if at least one person mentioned, Double King mentioned, he's like, I have a concern that it's possible that you could like with this method you could generate infinite thrill of the hunt charges given an infinitely long combat, and that's fair.
Yeah.
It could be that we might need to add a cap if that were the case.
Yeah.
I'm a fan of cap.
Yeah. Provide. Okay, so all right. Let's go back to the other one then. So is there another one about thrill the hunt charges, or
yeah? So my friend who's been playing on a crit when you hit your quarry in melee.
Can you hear me?
Go to the aggregated one, you'll see it. Oh, can you not hear me? Am I muted?
No, you're good. I think it's on my end. I think I disconnected for just a second. My internet's been a little bit weird. Okay, so aggregated ideas.
Oh, sorry about that. Yep, there's just a big list there that has a few different things about generating thrill of the hunt.
Okay, generate on crit when hitting your quarry in melee. So so I'll just give you my thoughts, I guess, as I go through these. So generating them on crit, I think I don't want to do that. I think I don't want to do that. I don't want the game to be too focused on crits, because then that definitely warps.
I like that idea.
Which idea?
I like what you're saying there. I like what you're saying there because I worry that like if you focus if we're focusing on crits for things like this was a thing I was concerned about with one of the I think the Red Mist Barbarian is like if we focus on crits, it's going to incentivize people to do like the dual wielding method, which is cool, but there's already kind of a built-in incentive to do dual wielding.
Yeah.
So you end up with like in that example, it'd be like you end up with the Red Mist Berserker who goes in with 2 daggers because that's the high, like that's a 43% chance to crit. And so you're like, this is very out of theme. It's very strange. And I don't want to do that with the Ranger where it's like, oh yeah, so now all of our Rangers when they jump in there, they're actually for some reason we now have all the hunters are just like throwing daggers. That's like their standard go-to processes. We throw daggers.
Yeah.
We don't shoot bows.
So I'm not worried about the Red Mist Berserker because most of their damage comes from their Fury dice, and they don't want to miss. So like they never want to miss. So a Berserker might that's focused on critting might drop down from like a D12 to D10 or D10 to D8 or D6, but I don't see a Berserker ever doing D4 just because most of their damage comes. What's that?
No, go ahead. Sorry, I was interrupting you.
Okay. So I'm not worried about that. So I think having a subclass that's focused on that, I think is fine. Like the cheat as a class as a whole is definitely focused on that. And I like that, but I don't want to lean too heavily on crits just in general. I think they're fun
Yeah,
on their own. They don't need to be like you don't need to have like an eye
yeah,
patch on your eye patch. So
yeah,
generate throw the
yeah.
hunt charges when hitting your.
I will say a weird thing, and then
Mhm.
I will stop talking about barbarian. I
Okay,
mean berserker. Sorry, I've been conditioned over 20 some years to call it
that's fine.
barbarian.
I call it
Um,
barbarian too. It's fine.
but one other thing, I have a friend who has been in our games. He's been dual wielding D4 weapons, and his we worked out the math. And if you dual wield D4 weapons, you have a mischance of about 6%, um, which is better than just about any like single dice weapon you could ask for, and you have a crit chance of about 45%, I think. So like
You have
a
a
dual
mischance of
wielder with
6%. That's not right.
6.5% mischance if you're dual wielding d4s. Not a one. I if it was one d4, if it was just a dagger, nothing else in your hands, then your mischance would be 25%. Absolutely, no doubt. Um, but if you are dual wielding daggers, then it really drops it because, as we've said, like dual wielding is sort of a pseudo advantage state.
So that is only once per round, and only if you don't have disadvantage. So let me see. Can you
Right,
see?
right. So
So
I would say that
D4,
many barbarians are probably
2D4.
rage, attack with two weapons, and then potentially move or maybe defend. I'm not sure, but it does it in at our table, and it's just one table. We've been playing a lot,
Uh-huh.
and we've got quite a few sessions under. But at our table, we find that like the D4, the two D4s has been surprisingly potent, as you would expect. But you're right. Like
Hmm.
the last week you did make that change where if you have disadvantage, you cannot use dual wielding, which we haven't. Well, a couple things. One, we haven't had a chance to try
Hmm.
that out, so that could change things. And
Yeah.
two, I don't know if I'm trying to think how often we end up doing that, but like obviously you can't do it if you're rushing attacks.
Yeah. Yeah. So yes, you would get
But
one
I don't want
attack
to derail
that's
you.
no, that's
Yeah.
fine. You get one attack that's like 93, 94% chance to hit. But
Yes.
after that, you're rolling with disadvantage. So you would need
Yeah.
all dice greater than or equal to 2, which is so you're gonna miss like half the time, like after the
Yeah.
first attack. Which you know,
I don't want to get too much into. I don't want to get too much into the weeds of optimization because I don't
yeah,
enjoy when my players sink into that.
yeah,
But the way it is currently, um, it is fairly easy for them to be like, all right, now that I have abused the advantage button of these daggers, I'm free to pull out my whatever backs.
right, right, okay. Yeah, so they would be able to do that like once without. So I think in almost all circumstances, and I'll get back to the I'll get back to the thing. So I think in almost all circumstances, like just using D6 weapons will always deal more damage. Maybe even D8 weapons. But I'd have to check. I'd have to crunch the numbers, but I'm pretty sure anytime you miss as a berserker, that downside is way bigger than any upside. But anyway, okay,
I agree.
let's
I
move
agree.
on.
That's why I'm worried about like if we make it so that like crits. So there's a like if crits are meaningful to the red mist and never missing is meaningful to red mist, and we know that dual wielding fixes both of those things, it becomes the class that just dual wields.
Yeah,
That bringing it all down to that. And then
yeah,
I'm good. I've said my piece, and I am totally cool. I really appreciate you that entertaining my diversion.
sure. Okay, so I'm gonna go hang up here, and then I'll chat about some of these things, and if you want to ping me again, we can you feel free to hop back on.
Absolutely, yeah. I appreciate it.
All right, sure thing. All right, so I'll go through the rest of these. Okay, so let's go through the rest of these ideas. So generating and thank you guys for hanging tight for that conversation. So generating throw the hunt charges on a crit is probably not the direction I want to go, just thematically and mechanically. I want people to want to use like the D8 longbow or some of these other weapons. Generate charge when hitting your quarry melee. I do really like that ability. I do really like that ability. That is a good idea. So range is where you spend your Thrill of the Hunt. Melee is where you generate them. That's a cool dichotomy. I do like that. Combine Thrill of the Hunt, and let's finish this. What does that mean? Let's go over to the InDesign document. Let's scroll up and maybe we can see both of these things together. Can you guys see both of those things together? We'll scooch over just a little bit. So combine those. I think that might just be like a flavor thing and not so much a mechanical thing. Let's see. Sorry, just doing a little bit of shuffling around here. So combining them, I think is probably just more flavor than anything than changing mechanics. Allow companion to assist allies. So the companion is only going to be most hunters are not going to have. They're not going to be Beastmaster Hunter. I think that's going to be the rare exception. That's a separate thing. I'll figure that out later. But I'll read through the thread and see if I can have my mind changed. But initially, what I'm thinking is. I think the companion only is most protective of and most willing to help like his master, like his bud, rather than allies. So I think I'm going to leave it that. Advantage against Corey. I don't think advantage against Corey is the direction I want to go. Maybe like one of the Thrill Hunt abilities could be like a passive ability. So that is something that I was toying with before. Generate charges by meeting a damage threshold. Probably not, because then at higher levels you'll just generate too much. It has to scale nicely. Ignore Corey's armor. All right. So yeah, let's talk about armor. So some classes have ways to ignore some kinds of armor under some circumstances, and I like that. But armor, the intent of armor is so that it makes combat feel different. So instead of armor, instead of so if something had like 100 hit points, if something had 100 hit points with no armor, that's roughly equivalent to a thing having like 80 hit points or 70 hit points with medium armor, or like 60 or 50 hit points with heavy armor. So with armor, rather than just saying like, well, instead of armor, let's just like double the hit points or triple the hit points, that will make combat take roughly the same amount of time, but the tactics are going to be the same. Like the best attack is always the best attack, regardless of what creature I'm fighting. The best tactics are always the best tactics, regardless of what I'm fighting. So I want armor to be a challenge that needs to be overcome. I really want to emphasize that armor does something. Armor is more than just adding another 100 hit points. Like you can exchange it if you want. So like rather than fighting like everything with heavy armor just to like tactically do it, there's advice for that in the GM guide. But I don't want every class to have an easy way to always ignore armor. So at least at the first few levels, like every class like kind of struggles. Like the cheat has a way to get around armor because like they're a cheat and that's what they do, and they're a glass cannon class. That is sort of what they do. They either have to get lucky or they have to tactically set things up in a way to where their allies are in position and they're in position, and like they set it up and they get rewarded for that, so they can crit more frequently. The Berserker can essentially ignore, not entirely, but essentially ignore medium armor. But the Berserker is absolutely hampered by heavy armor, just like the rest of the classes. And the other classes, they have different ways to mitigate it somewhat. But like apart from the cheat, especially in the Berserker for medium armor, everybody sort of struggles in different ways with heavy and medium armor, and I think that's good. They should feel harder. Like something with medium armor should feel like a tougher nut to crack. Like I'm doing less damage to this guy because he's armored, rather than like, oh, he's armored and he just has more hit points. If that makes sense. So I'll read through the threads and sort of see, but my initial thought is I think I want to leave armor where it is. Let me go and click his idea again and read. Okay, so your range attacks against your quarry ignore armor the turn is marked. You may mark the same quarry again on subsequent turns. So yeah, like I think like as an idea, that's a fine idea. Um, like mechanically speaking, like that's a fine idea. Um, but mechanically, does that make sense that you can just ignore the armor, like the turn you mark it? Like why, like fantasy wise, fantasy wise, why does it make sense that I can just ignore the armor sometimes? Why can't I do that like all the time? It's still marked. Like what's special about, and I hope you don't feel like I'm picking on the idea. I'm just sort of like thinking the idea through. So like if it is a flavor win and a mechanical win, then like yeah, we got something good. And it's easy to like do at the table, like then like yeah, like that's something that hits all three of those things, like makes it in. But if it makes sense mechanically, but it doesn't really make sense in world, then like then I would question like, well, why is that? So like rage makes sense. Like I spend some time like making myself angrier, and then when I get hit, like I use some of that to like I can absorb some of this damage because I'm so angry, like I just don't feel it. Or I'm angry, so I deal more damage. So like that makes sense. The cheat makes sense, like rolling these sneak attack dice because like you're getting them in a spot where they weren't protected, right? So flavor wise, your range attacks against your quarry ignore armor the turn it's marked. I like it mechanically, but flavor wise, it's missing to me. It doesn't make sense why that would work. Like maybe as like a high level ability, like you're just so good at marking creatures you have marked, you can ignore their armor, or maybe you can decrement their armor one step. So medium is treated as unarmored, heavy is treated as medium. So like something like that makes more sense. Like you can spot weakness, and if the ability was called like spot weakness, your quarry. Your quarry's armor is always treated as one less. Like that makes sense flavor wise, and it does kind of the same thing, but um, marking a target, like doing no damage, marking a target is already a big cost. And I don't want to incentivize doing it over again. The more like marking a target isn't the fun part. The fun part is like attacking again or figuring out some other way to get around it rather than just like, do this ability to ignore the army and, I'd rather generate some thrill of the hunt charges and then do some big ability that ignores armor, right? So if we look at some of the, this is by no means final. This is just like initial reactions, just looking at it without really looking at your rationale and that kind of thing. So I'm gonna look more into it, but this is just like again initial thoughts. So something like vital shot. So something you set up. If your quarry is slowed, ignore armor with a ranged weapon against them. If they're unarmored, so it has utility against every creature. You double your hunter's mark bonus damage. So you're already so that kind of thing feels really good. Like it's a vital shot, and you can only do that when they're slowed. Like you can only spot that opening, spot that weakness when you're slowed. So like you do have ways to do that. So you have that, or you have final takedown, where you can just automatically crit, which ignores armor and does huge amounts of damage. But there's this cool, flavorful drawback, like you're putting everything you have into it and making yourself vulnerable, and then like they get you back. So mechanically, those feel right, but I do want every class to struggle with armor, and that to be a tactical decision where I fight against medium armored foes differently, or we let the berserker fight the medium armored guys, and then the rest of us we fight these unarmored guys or these heavily armored guys. So that is an actual design goal um, for the game, for it to feel different. Okay, so um, these problems, most classes they're highly unlikely to crit unless you go like Path of Red Mist, and that's fine because you're giving up survivability in exchange for that. The cheat, yes, definitely. Out of all of the classes, the cheat is best able to, and you guys, sorry, I've got this web browser open. So out of all the classes, the cheat is best able to get around the armor because they have vicious opportunists, but that requires them to be in melee. And it requires them to either get lucky to make a sneak attack, to crit, to have a really big crit, or it requires them to be hidden or the target to be distracted. Let's see, the commander. Commander does not have any great way to get around armor. At high levels, they do get weapon mastery. What levels do we get weapon mastery? Level 6. level 10, and what, level 14. So level 6, level 10, and 14. You get weapon mastery. So you can selectively choose to be better at certain kinds of armor if you're using that kind of weapon, but at the expense of not having the others. And once you're level 14, then you have different ways to do this. But again, that is sort of your special thing, and you're a weapon master. You always have the right tool for the right job, right? And if you choose a spellblade, then you sort of give that up altogether. But again, it requires them to be in melee, and it requires the right weapon. And I think that's okay. Hunter, we're talking about Hunter. Let's look at Mage. Mage does not have any good way to get around armor, like specifically. I don't think. Oathsworn does not. Likewise, is similar to Berserker. Oathsworn can get around much of medium armor, but not heavy armor. Shadowmancer, is just like Mage, doesn't really have any good way to do either. I mean, their minions like just deal dice damage. So medium armor is easier to get around. Heavy armor is harder to get around. Weapon mastery. All their spells roll dice. Yes, so their spells roll dice, but the cantrips, so like they can't just always use spells. So spinning a resource to deal more damage reliably is good, but like you're spinning mana. So they're cantrips, so it's the firebolt analog, flame dart, is 1d10, and then at high levels it's just +5, right? +5, +5, +5. So they struggle in different ways. So can they spend mana to get around some of the armor more reliably? Yes, but still heavy armor is still like the tough nut to crack, and medium armor can get around some of that. Let's see, Shepherd. So I think the rest of them are Songweaver. Songweaver has Vicious Mockery that just straight up ignores armor, but it's really a very low damage ability. It's mostly for the for the debuffs. Like it deals a decent amount of damage, but you can't reliably attack with that 2 or 3 times. You can attack with that once fairly reliably. I just send you a link to the explanation. Okay, yeah. Let me take a look at that. So I'm honestly just thinking through this at the same time as I'm talking about it. So it is helpful for me. So the Storm Shifter, likewise, I don't think they have any special way to get around armor. So every class has ways to deal with it, but there's no easy button for any class, and so I want to keep that roughly equivalent. The Zephyr, so they can attack reliably D4 and crit 25% of the time to ignore the armor, but even their reverberating strikes is absorbed by armor unless they crit, which they can crit 25% of the time, so it's not nothing. But so like every class to varying degrees struggles with different kinds of armor. So let me check out. What you just sent me. 956. Okay, you just sent it to me. Cool. Thank you for taking the time to listen to fans game. Yeah, absolutely. It's great, and you guys have fantastic feedback, and really appreciate all the feedback and how much everybody cares. It's really been just an absolutely fun time. Good conversation. Can you dual wield 2 D4 strength weapons though? I don't think there are 2 D4 strength weapons. Unless you like homebrew, like light hammers or something like that. No, strength weapons start at D6. So yeah, that is a good point about the Berserker. Totally agree. If everyone can ignore armor, there's not need for armor, yeah. But the Hunter could use a bump me up on this small limited, but yeah. Should feel hard for sure, however, we found an important problem with that. On the flavor question. Okay, yeah, I mean, I'm sure like I'm not the first one. Chat. Okay, so let's pull. Sorry, guys, 1 second. Sorry, I keep clicking the wrong button. Copy link. Let's go back over to here. Paste that in there, and then we'll pull it up. Web browser. There we go. Okay, so Berserker Fury Dice. So yeah, that is against medium armor only, but still it does reduce the damage by maybe 10% for just from their strength modifier. Cheat sneak attack, but again that's only 25% of the time. Zephyrs, it's the same for the Zephyr, and even the same for the Hunter. If we go back to the Hunter, let's close that. Oh, wrong one. I turned off. Let's go back here. So the Hunter does get an ability that I don't know if many people have had a chance to play with yet. I wouldn't mind some feedback on it. So hunters get a versatile bowmaster. So level 6, they can more reliably get around armor by, instead of rolling a 1d8 for their longbow, they can roll 2d4. So increasing their chance to miss, increasing their chance to crit. Or the crossbow, a 2d8 instead of 4d4. So if they want to hit harder, more reliably, they can use the crossbow, and instead of the d4s, they can use 2d8. So hunters do have the same the same reliability against heavy and medium armor as cheats and Zephyrs, roughly. There's differences. There's situations where it's better or worse, obviously. So let's go back to this. I've got like 50 windows open, guys, so I apologize. Commander Weapon Mastery. So Weapon Mastery ignores armor sometimes. And you don't just ignore armor like throughout. It's at level 6, I think, and then like up to level 14 to get all of them. And then the cheat does get, was it expose armor? Let's take a look at that real quick. Because I think someone did bring that up as a very, very good point, that it may be too good or too long or something. So cheat gets Sunder armor. Sunder armor medium when you crit an enemy with medium armor. So it does require you to crit. Sunder their armor until the start of your next turn. All attacks against that target ignore its armor. Okay, so that might be too good. It might be like the next attack against it ignores armor. So it does cost an action, and it requires you to crit. So it's fairly good. Yeah, so this might need to be like... It might need to be rethought, because out of all of the ways to reliably ignore armor, this is probably the most broken. So I will definitely agree to that. All right, so let's see. Mage spells. So yep, it's exactly what I was saying. Yeah, you're absolutely right. Also on Judgment Dice, yes, for medium armor again, and it's only for that one first attack. So their first attack has a Judgment Dice. If they miss, they miss. And they also have like True Strike, where they can increase their chance to they attack with advantage, increasing their chance to crit. You can't see Discord. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I got a lot of windows open. Okay, so here, you didn't miss too much. So Oathsworn, they build up their Judgment Dice when it's not their turn, and then they have this one big attack. And yes, those dice do ignore medium armor, but the heavy armor will still cut that in half unless they crit. Shadowmancer are their spells. Yeah, so the Shadowmancer, their cantrip, they can only cast once per round. And it adds their charisma bonus, so it is still affected a lot. Shepherd spells, Searing Light. So yeah, Radiant spells are a big exception, because Radiant spells in general they are below curve in terms of damage, but they have other utility, like attacking things that are behind cover or things that are like ignoring armor. So that is one bonus of Radiant spells. Stormshifter, they get their spells. But again, spells don't just blanket ignore armor. So I think that's pretty fair. I think that's pretty fair. Zephyr, they get four attacks per round. They get their 3 attacks if they're already in range. And then they can spend a resource to get a 4th attack, which again, like every class has ways to mitigate it, but nobody can just ignore it. I think is where I would land. Is where I land. So let's see what you guys saying. Mystery other dice rolls. We can't see Discord. Okay. Excited for Nimble. Absolutely loving YouTube channel. Really think you have amazing insights into the game system. Okay, cool. Thanks. Thank you so much. Appreciate it, Chandler. Oh, man, we had a Ross and a Chandler. Awesome. Twin Steel, I think you and I are talking about different things. I'm talking about 20th. Oh, yeah. So very, very high level stuff. Okay. So maybe that's why we're talking about each other. I'm talking about 20th level Hunter, always doing 5 damage to medium armor unless they crit. Okay, so yeah. So let's look at it with that in mind. I gotcha. So let's take a look at 20th level. 20th level hunter. Talking about a 20th level hunter always doing 5 damage to medium armor unless they crit. Yeah. Let's have you hop back on. All right, let's see if this works again. All right, hey, you there?
Ooh, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Absolutely. I totally agree with what you're saying. I think some of the terminology is maybe a little different. I think armor is very important. I don't. We've had a bunch of different ways to talk about it. The core issue is that kind of one of the fundamentally unique things about the hunter is most of their bonus damage is flat damage based on their level, which is cool. I like how that's unique to the hunter. The trouble is that means that even against medium armored opponents, any of the damage, the extra damage they get from being a higher level, by and large, most of
Uh-oh. Did I lose you again?
a blast or heavy armor to damage in half. Totally agree with you on that.
I think I lost you for like 5 seconds there. It's my internet. Do you want to back up just a little bit?
Sure. Just to say, nothing you said, or I agree with everything you said. There's nothing that you said that I disagree with.
Cool.
All I want to say is that when you look at and just open up the link that I sent that was Double King's chart, because that's also kind of illustrative of what we're talking about here, which is when you track out their damage, and you look at what other classes can do. When you watch the damage curve over the course of the game, and one of the things I want to reiterate here is I'm not interested in making this class meet some unreasonable damage standard. I just want to make sure that the floor isn't as low as it currently is, because the cheat sneak attack dice, the Oathsworn dice, the Fury dice, those classes are big damage dealers. Mages casting spells, they have to spend mana. Searing Light, that's special. I understand all of these things, like maybe take a resource or are reduced by armor. But the trouble is that the hunter, because their extra damage isn't dice, and that means that they basically have the same detriment from heavy armor and medium armor, which is their bonus damage is gone, and their dice damage is cut in half. But since the vast majority of the damage they get as they level is from bonus damage of their level, which is cool. I like the consistency. It just cuts it out. So when you look at that chart, you can see at the very bottom there, the normal attack is flat throughout the entire series, which is the thing that we've been talking about on that sub thread, which is, again, not. I want you to know that we've thrown out a bunch of different ideas, and we tried to kind of condense them down into something that was quick to send to you, because we know you're getting tons and tons of different information at the same time, so it's hard. But there were a few different ways to go about it. Having to mark every turn, we put that in there because mostly it was like, well, maybe being able to improve the strength against damage once and stay marked and keep that benefit is too much. Maybe that's too much, so we could do it every turn, kind of like you can re-rage every turn. And Sanity had a great description of that. He was like, how when you hold your breath to take a shot when you snipe somebody, it's like that. And that could be its own ability if you want to break it off into its own thing. Yeah. And when we talked about decrementing the armor, we were actually concerned that maybe you would think that was too fiddly. So that was why the ignore the armor came up. But gotcha. We're not, I don't think anybody's advocating that the best solution is the hunter just needs to always ignore armor on everybody and be like the super DPS guy. What we're saying is when you follow the damage of this class over the course of their journey, you know, even if you're like comparing them to a level 6 weapon master who decided to pick, you know, hammers against, or who decided to just focus on medium, there, you know, we're talking about the normal weapon master damage versus 5 damage for the ranger. Or if you look at the 14, it's still 5, unless they can generate enough thrill of the hunt charges to really consistently put off some of these thrill of the hunt abilities that do allow them some level of armor mitigation, which is where my friend, which is where one of my friends who's been playing this, I would say he's probably played this about as much as anybody except for yourself. He said those were the suggestions that he mentioned, which are probably not on there, which was, you know, change the way that you crit for your quarry. Could you crit on 1 less than normal, or could you also crit on a 1? He said maybe thrill of the hunt ignoring armor. If you just get thrill of the hunt ignoring armor like it does on the Beastmaster as a general thing, that would complicate making the Beastmaster its own thing, but it would solve this underlying core issue for the ranger. And then the other one was perhaps there's an ability they can have to somehow make to address this, like on a point scale, you know, like we said before, like you could spend some sort of resource to make your thrill of the hunt better. But that's kind of that's where coming in. I totally agree that armor is important, and I've tried to explain that to plenty of people, that like we don't think that everybody ignoring armor is good. We just think that the way damage is generated for most of these classes, it immediately outperforms anything the hunter can do against just medium armor. And it does do better against heavy armor, even though heavy armor, it basically what you need to do with heavy armor is like get your whole situation changed and like try and collapse the room on them, and I can do 5 damage a turn. That feels so crummy against what we described before as like this. There's a bunch of goblins, and then there's a goblin with the shield, and he's like, you're telling me that like I'm like tunnel visioning on this guy, I'm focusing him down, I'm holding my breath, I'm shooting this shot, and I can't do any more damage than that.
Sure.
And
I hear you.
Hey brother, I just want to let you know that I really appreciate you letting me voice these opinions, and it's really chill working with you. I know that you're very busy, and I can absolutely jump off of here if you need me to.
Okay, yeah, I'm gonna analyze this a little bit and put some thought into it. Yeah, I agree something needs to be done, but the question I think is how much, and are we? Again, I appreciate it, Ross. Thank you so much, man. So I want to let him go because I think he was actually in the middle of something. I think I read that he was like stepping out to chat with me, so I don't want to hold him too long. So my thought is. Are we comparing apples to apples? I think we're not necessarily. But so something I think the hunter needs a little bit to be able to better control when they get their thrill of the hunt charges, and maybe one more ability, or maybe one of the abilities is tweaked, which is like the go-to like ability to use when something is in medium or heavy armor. I think that kind of thing might fix it. How we get it, Bruno says his suggestion at level 3 will tackle it. I'll check that out. I'll check that, Bruno. So I think how we get there, how we get what we do for the thrill of the hunt, I'm still cooking on. Let's see, Bruno's great idea for Bruno. Let me pull that up so everybody can see it. This one. Copy message link, and Ross, Twin Still, super duper appreciate all the comments and feedback you guys are putting in. I gave the wrong one. This one, Bruno's idea. Here we go. All right, here we go, Bruno. Let me see if you guys can see this. Yeah, you can see it. All right, so let's shrink this down so we can see it. Level 3 idea. Where is it? Make an assess check free. Alternatively, you can discern the events of a past encounter by studying. Make an assess. check for free with advantage. Okay, so is that the part you're talking about, Bruno? Make an assess check for free? Yeah, no, absolutely, Twin Steel. No, appreciate the feedback. So yes, I agree. Something needs to be done. Mixing keen senses with tracker's intuition. Oh, I got you. Let me pull up keen senses. See what that is. Keen senses. What is keen senses? I don't know where keen senses. There, keen sight. Advantage on perception checks. Keen senses. Oh, there it is. Make an assess check for free with advantage. Yeah, I don't think that's a great. That's not. I think that one might just get cut. I do like the. You guys can't see. You guys can't see that. So keen senses. Keen senses is make an assess check for free with advantage. So doing that with a cost is, I think, feels better. So I don't want so like as the GM, I don't want someone like assessing again and again and again and again and again like until they get the thing. Because assess is a little bit nebulous, and like once you learn like the one cool thing about the creature, I don't want it to be an automatic like I ignore armor button. I want it to be like more of a flavorful thing, like why is this creature doing this thing? I want to learn something about it, like that kind of stuff, rather than like a button you press over and over and over again. Maybe it's just that assess needs to be more fully fleshed out. I kind of like how it's open right now, but I'm not sure if I want it to just be like something that is encouraged to do over and over and over again. Twice per encounter. Okay, I put twice per encounter or long rest as my suggestion. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. The idea is you can assess to reduce armor 2 times. If you do so, reduce the amount of times you can use tracker's intuition. Gotcha. Okay. Yeah. So I mean, I don't hate that idea. That's a pretty smart idea, Bruno. That's a pretty smart idea. So I do like the idea of. So we're probably not going to use all of these. I like the idea of whenever you attack your quarry in melee, you get a charge. I do like the idea of whenever your quarry attacks you, it probably wouldn't be both. It would be like either or. And I think whenever you attack your quarry in melee, feels more huntery, because the hunter really doesn't want to get hit a whole lot. He's a D8 guy. But like you get in there, stab, you hit him, maybe you take him down, and you get like all of a sudden you get like 2 or 3 charges. Head step away. How's work going on the class? Yeah, it's going great. So I do like the idea of like you run into melee and then you stab, poke, whatever, and you get like 2, 3 charges, like 2, like so like you have 3 actions. You run in, attack twice, you get 2 charges. If you kill the guy, then you got a 3rd charge. Then you can like run away, or you can like roll and shoot, and then like you spend your 2 or 3 charges at range doing something cool. So like maybe every other turn you're able to just ignore their armor with you can use sharpshooter, you can use vital shot, ignoring their armor with a rage weapon. Or you can use a pinning shot, and then you can set up a vital shot or some of these other ones. Or you can use at level 6, you use your versatile bowmaster ability. Can you guys see this? Man, I keep forgetting to turn off thing. You can use your versatile bowmaster ability to increase your chance to crit, which I think giving them like a flat 25% chance to just ignore armor is like, it's a pretty big deal. That's a pretty big deal. So let me actually pull up the chart, because I think the chart shows a part of the story, but maybe not necessarily the entire story. Where was that chart? Go back. Here's a chart. Okay, so when I am that's the wrong one. That's my dirty desk. This one. So when I am thinking about some of these things, I will look at how things look, spinning 1 attack as well as spinning all 3 actions, attacking across the damage curve. if we're right in armor, is that detrimental to the hunter? Keen sense turns into a must. Okay. I see. That's the problem. When I bring it to the core, solve the issue, give it a limit. Okay, yep, that makes sense. So RPG, but still some questions. Yeah, it's simple for the people who just want simple. They just want to like role play and talk to some people and kill some goblins. But like for the people who like the tactics and stuff, like yeah, it's gonna be balanced to where like it really matters. You can really like get some cool stuff going. So when I'm doing my my internal balancing spreadsheets and calculations, I will do a single action, which is what this is. It gives you a good indication of how things are matching up, apples to apples, one attack. But that's not the entire story. The multiple levels, multiple encounter types, multiple rounds, breakdowns. Cool. I'm sure you guys have I'm sure I'm not saying anything you guys haven't talked about already. But like I'm not caught up on it. This is more for like just design thought in general for people who are not deep in the weeds. So, so for instance, Shadow Blast. So let's look at Shadow Blast. So Shadow Blast compared to like a bow. Shadow Blast compared to a bow against medium armor, it looks like Shadow Blast is just like infinitely better than this versus medium armor. Um, uh, that said, Shadow Blast has a 1 in 12 chance to crit, and then your bow has a 25% chance to ignore armor. So just 1 to 1, but also Shadow Blast is once per round, or once per turn, I think, once per turn. So you can only do that once per turn. So you have to do something else that's not as effective as Shadow Blast with the rest of your actions. You have to either spend your resources, your very, very limited mana, or maybe make some minions and send them into battle where they're going to die, or other things might happen. So if you look at it across multiple things, the numbers are not so stark. So that said, does something need to be done? Yes, I think we can make some small tweaks. Yeah, we could definitely make some small tweaks to make it more competitive. As long as we're careful not to say like, well, everybody has this easy button to ignore armor, and I know you guys aren't saying that, but like those are things that are in my mind. So I'm not looking at it just at this. I'm not looking at it at just attack, or like once per round. It's what are all the other abilities? Like, can this guy at some other time do something way better than a Shadow Bolt, or even way better than casting Shadow Bolt 3 times, and yes, there are certain circumstances where it looks like this. There are other circumstances where it's like completely flipped, where the hunter is dealing the most damage with a single attack. So we need to look at all of that. Otherwise, like, we can buff the hunter so much to where like now the berserker, who's like an 11 out of 10, like the best class I think right now, starts to feel a little bit weak and puny. So let's see what changes we can make with that in mind. So I think the obvious change, where are we? So the obvious change, I think, is to the thrill of the hunt. Okay, so if we make thrill of the hunt, let's put our ideas down. Okay, so if we make our thrill of the hunt, be like, man, I really hate layout so much. There we go. Whenever you attack your quarry, gain 1 charge. Okay, so whenever you attack your quarry, you gain 1 charge. So if that is it, DK is rather great. What is DK, Twin Steel? I don't know what DK is. Oh, Double King. Yeah, Double King. Hey. Yeah, he seems like a pretty smart guy. Summon Blast Cast. Okay. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So if we have whenever you attack your quarry, gain 1 charge. So on the first round of combat, you're going to get like you're going to mark a target and then attack them. A quarry is the hunter has hunter's mark. You mark a creature, and that creature is your quarry. So rather than just saying over and over and again, um, the creature that you have marked, we could just say quarry. So good question, Gamer Boy. So yeah, a lot of times we can get into the weeds too much, and then like other people don't know what we're talking about. So if we assume that you get like 1 to 2 actions on your first turn, on average you're going to get like 1 to 2 actions. Then you're going to mark your target, and then you'll attack them. So your first turn, let's say you have like a half. So let's make a spreadsheet. Everybody loves spreadsheets. Table, bam, and I'll share this. Web browser, change it to properties, Brave, numbers. There we go. All right, so round 1, throw the hunt, charges. So round 1, you're gonna have, let's say, 0.5 charges on average. So half the time you'll only be able to mark. The other half the time you'll be able to mark and then make an attack. Round 1 equals this plus 1. Okay, so let's say, probably 6 rounds is as far as you'll ever go. So your second turn, you're probably going to want to attack. Just you're going to build up 3 charges. One of those might miss, so let's say you'll build up another 2.5 charges. And then round 3, you're probably going to start spinning them. Or maybe you'll build up 2 and they'll use one of your charges to make an attack, and because it doesn't miss, then you'll probably do that. So you'll have there. And then round 3, you might need to mark another target because your target is probably dead. And you'll like generate 1 more charge, and then maybe 1 more charge here. So let's say another 1.5. So over the course of an encounter, on average, we're going to estimate that you're going to get 5 charges. That feels about right. That feels about right. Yeah, left animation now. Oh yeah, the spreadsheets. Terry, you know what's going on. Yeah, so no, I did animation for a while, and then I moved to, so like it's hard to make money as an animator, so I moved into marketing. So I did that for a long time. Now I spend my days hating layout. That's right, Edward. So getting 5 thrill of the hunt charges feels about right. So if you get thrill of the hunt charges by hitting your quarry, striking your quarry, I think you don't get any. You don't get any when your quarry dies. You don't get any when they attack. You don't get any when you roll initiative. Like the only way you get it is by attacking your quarry, because yeah. And it feels better to attack to mark a medium target, because if you're attacking them, like you're still getting thrill of the hunt charges. So before, like you didn't even really want to mark a target with medium armor, because like you don't get the bonus damage. And marking something at like level 1 or level 2, dealing only 1 or 2 additional damage, felt a little bit bad. So I'm leaning toward that. Our guy's doing. Our guy has. I assume that's the guy that's playtesting the hunter. Has been doing a lot of move in, partial move, attack with multi-shot. Oh, multi-shot. Yeah, I haven't even thought about multi-shot. Kill minion and hit another target. Hopefully BPG. Then use the rest of movement to get 1. What's that last part move mean? Then use the rest of the movement to get 1. I'm not sure what that means. But yeah, multi-shot is quite good. In the playtesting we did yesterday, nobody used multi-shot. So, but that one is pretty good. Oh, out. Use the rest movement to get out. Okay, I see. Yeah. And that's cool. That's sort of playing risky. Like you're staying at this sort of like nearish range, and they can easily like run up to you and get you. And even if you decoy out, they'll still have enough movement to come find you. So yeah, like you can play like that's a higher risk strategy, which I like. So if we do this, so this is plus charge on hitting quarry. Yeah, and it makes sense. Like this, your quarry, you're hitting them, and you're getting pumped up because like you're getting the thing. That feels flavor wise, that feels good. So what was the other idea I had? The other idea I had was whenever your quarry attacks you, which may never happen. So yeah, I'm going to go ahead and call it. I'm going to go ahead and change this. We have a draft of this already. And I actually like how it simplifies. There's not like you gain a charge if, this and this on the third Tuesday of every month. Like, no. Like, we're gaining charges when you hit them. I like it. I really, really like that. Whoever's idea that was, kudos. Gain 2 Thrill of the Hunt abilities. Whenever you hit your quarry, gain 1 charge. Gain 1 Thrill of the Hunt charge. There you go. Gain 1 charge if you kill an enemy. Nope, no more. These charges are lost. Yep. So that is just way simpler, way easier to track, and is more reliable. I think we can probably keep this. So where is it? Gain 1 additional thrill of the hunt charge whenever you kill your quarry. Yep, I like that. So sometimes you'll be able to get 2 when you hit your quarry. This is super duper good. Yeah, that's super duper good. So sometimes you'll get 1, sometimes you'll get 2, but then when your quarry's dead, you're gonna have to spend the action to mark another target, which is really a nice way to do it. Wait, was it whenever you hit your quarry in melee, or was it whenever you hit your quarry? I got so excited that I forgot what it was. First Tuesday of the month. Lucky me, game nights are on Tuesdays. In melee. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Nice. Oh, that was your idea? Nice, Ross. We did in melee. We'll link with the let's finish this. Let's finish this. Okay, so let's rethink that then. Whenever you hit your quarry, so hitting your quarry just alone is probably too good in melee. Okay, so if we add that limiter, let's go back to the spreadsheet real quick. Oh, I had the spreadsheet up the whole time, so you guys couldn't see what I was typing, I guess. Yeah, you couldn't see what I was typing. So back to the spreadsheet. So this was assuming, okay, so this was assuming doing it at range still. I mean, what if it's just whenever you hit your quarry, whether you're at range or in melee, and then in melee you get additional bonuses. In melee, you can. So this is what we have right now. Choose thrill of the hunt abilities. Whenever you hit your quarry, gain 1 thrill of the hunt charge. These charges are lost when combat ends. If you have no thrill of the hunt charges, treat all melee attacks as if your target is marked. I think that's fine. If you have no thrill of the hunt charges, treat all melee attacks as if your target is marked. So it's more cost efficient in melee. And then down here, when you gain Veteran Stalker, like you're more incentivized to go to melee. So at early levels, it's sort of easy. Like you're at range, you're like shoot. You're a ranger, like you're ranged, right? I know ranger doesn't mean that. Range means the range that you're at. Levels, it's it's 1, and like you can go into melee if you want to like build up your charges a little bit more quickly. But at like level 5, like you're much more incentivized to have this sort of dual way to do things. I don't hate that. I don't know if I love it, but I don't know. I don't think including range would be OP. I'm not worried about it being OP. I don't think it would be. I'm worried about is it too boring of a play style? Like we would have to specify whenever you hit your quarry. So whenever you hit your quarry, like without expending a thrill of the hunt charge, gain a charge. So like if you're using like hail of arrows, like you don't gain a charge. Like, does that make sense? Otherwise, like you've got a perpetual motion machine. If it was any time you hit your quarry, that would be great. We were worried you think it would be too. It might be too potent. I think it's a bit more boring. Yeah. Bruno, you're right. No, you're right. Okay, so I think this is what we're going to do. Whenever you roll initiative is a hard word to spell. Gain 1. Okay, choose two thrill of the hunt abilities. I'm getting tired, guys. Whenever you roll initiative, gain 1 thrill of the hunt charge. Whenever you hit your quarry in melee, with a melee attack, gain 1 more charge. These are lost when combat ends. Okay, so I don't think I need all of this shenanigans. Just go normal. Okay, so choose 2 thrill of the hunt abilities. Whenever you roll initiative, gain no charge. So you start at range, you can do like a cool range thing, and then like you're out, and then you run in, smack. Yeah, that makes sense. So that makes this fit better. So it makes it all feel a little bit more interesting, I think. If you have no thrill of the hunt charges, treat all melee. What if it was just this? Treat your melee attacks as if your target is marked. Going to melee to recharge was a good idea. Yeah, it is a good idea. When you roll initiative or hit your quarry with melee attack. Yeah. I'll work on the wording. I'm sort of like thinking about the function right now. But yeah, you're right. Scullivan. Treat your melee attacks. I think it's nice to have, like, if you have no thrill of the hunt charges, treat your melee attacks as your target's marks. Okay. Whenever you roll initiative, gain 1 thrill of the hunt charge. I like it. Whenever you hit your quarry with a melee attack, gain 1 more charge. Whenever you roll initiative whenever you roll initiative or I think we might need whenever there. Or whenever you hit your quarry with a melee attack, gain 1 thrill of the hunt charge. These are lost when combat. And I think this could probably just be parenthetical rather than its own sentence. They are lost when combat ends. Let's see what you guys think. So that stays as is. Let's finish this. Only works for 1 hit. That's right. How was it phrased earlier? If you have no thrill of the hunt charges at the beginning of your turn, right? If you have no thrill of the hunt charges at the beginning of your turn, treat all melee attacks as treat all of your melee attacks as if your target is marked. Yep. Check out the wording on mine. I think that's right. No, I don't want you to automatically mark it, because later when your target dies, you gain a charge, or when you kill it. So like the wording matters a little bit. So it's not actually marked, but although you might be able to do that. Yeah, because like I don't want you to like run in like smack, and now you have 3 marks, right? But like you smack this guy, and like while you're hitting him, you're treating him as if he's marked. And if he dies, you can attack another one, and you'll gain another charge. I think that fixes a lot of the issues. Let's take a look at some of these things that have to do with armor. So yesterday we used idling arrow to good use. We put that to good use. Attack with a ranged weapon. The next action the target takes must be an attack against the closest other creature, chosen at random. The next attack. Let's do this. Let's do the next. The next attack the target makes must be against the closest other the closest other creature. I think that's fine. Come get some. Attack a target. It is taunted by you until the end of the next turn. Yeah. So like you can, if this is your last charge, you can like shoot a guy. Even if it's your third attack, it's still going to hit. They're taunted by you. Maybe they will spend their action on their turn, running at you. So you're going to save yourself an action. You don't have to run toward them, and then you can smack, smack, smack. Gain some more charges. You kill them, and then you can keep shooting, which is pretty sweet. You can like goad them into coming at you. Decoy, attack misses. Grease trap reaction. Vulnerable to fire damage. Nah, that one's cool. Hail of arrows, attack all creatures within 15 by 15 area. Sweet as halved. Attack and push. Okay, so a heavy shot is actually a great way to deal with heavily armored creatures if they're not, if they're small or medium, or even large, because the extra dice from heavy shot come from ignore the armor. So that is one more tool to use that. Ooh, this one's really good. Incendiary shot. That one's also very, very good, especially for armored creatures. You just deal additional damage. So I don't know that I'm worried about the hunter not having enough tools to deal with armor. If they have some way to generate the thrill of the hunt charges more reliably, like you have just as many tools as like anybody who can cast spells. Like it costs you your thrill of the hunt charges, but you know, like you can just deal like a ton of dice as well. It costs you your resource, just like you know the mage. It costs them their resource. Otherwise, they're casting cantrips and they're doing 5.5 damage on average as well. An assess check. I don't know about keen senses. I'm gonna think about that one. That one might just get cut. How many abilities do you pick? 4 for the hunt. Okay, so 5th, 6th. So this should say choose a 7th ability. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. Okay, so I think I might just cut keen senses. I'm not sure. I mean, it might make a good like 5th or 6th, 5th or 6th ability. Like I don't really need any more damaging things. Maybe I want to like assess. I guess that's okay. Multi-shot. Attack your quarry with a ranged weapon and load an additional projectile. Select a second target within 10 feet of them to take the same amount of damage. So yeah, so again, there's another way to... incendiary was the one we used on the graph. Okay. So multi-shot is another way. So if you have like a heavily armored guy and an unarmored guy, the way it's worded right now, I don't know if it'll stay that way, but the way it's worded currently, just for simplicity. So you attack this. So say you're level 10, you roll a 3 plus your 2 dex, or plus your 4 dex. So 3 plus 4 is 7, plus 10. So 17 damage. So you attack them for 17 damage. The guy with heavy armor right next to them is also going to take 17 damage. So again, you need to have the situation set up properly. But if you have a light unarmored creature and a heavily armored creature, that's another way you can just like bam bam. You can do that. Does it make sense necessarily? I don't think so. But it's kind of a cool, weird loophole. It might get tweaked because multi-shot is already very, very, very good. It might just be attack a second target for the same amount. That would make more sense, but would that be not good enough? I'm not sure. You guys let me know. Pinning shot was very good. It was confusing the way it was worded, but it was quite good. Basically 3 attacks that can't miss, and then they're restrained. Oh no, I love keen senses. If you're gonna cut it, no, I don't think I'm gonna cut it. I think it's a fine like 4th or 5th or 6th thing. What is Tracker's intuition, if not a really wordy explanation for assess? Yeah. Now we have good ways to generate that. Yeah. There's more abilities. Pinning shot was really good last time against a boss. And again, it's not all about damage. A lot of it is about like being able to control the battlefield with like your traps and stuff, and setting up like a big like setup smoldering on a dude. Roll and Strike was used to good effect. Snare Trap, we didn't use it last night. Reaction when they move adjacent to you, move them back 5 feet. They're restrained. Okay, so that's more of a control thing. Sharpshooter, you can just attack them for double damage, which is again super good. And it doesn't miss either. And then Vital Shot, probably the strongest out of all of them, but your Corey has to be slowed. And if you have like a mage in your party, like it's going to be fairly trivial to slow a target. You ignore armor with a ranged weapon against them, or you can double their Hunter's Mark damage. So I think the Hunter has at least as many ways as other classes to deal with heavy armor. I think the bulk of the issue was how we can generate the charges so that they can do their cool things. I think this fixes it. I think this fixes it. I think it does fix it. Cool. Okay, how long have we been streaming? I don't know. It doesn't say. Almost 3 hours. Okay. All right, guys. Appreciate the great feedback. Bruno says, I had a sharpshooter in my hunter during playtest. It's very good and not spammy because the more than 30 feet sharpshooter? Oh, right. Yep. Decoy, grease shot, multi-shot have been in heavy rotation. I think that helps a lot. Okay, cool. Yeah, thank you guys so much. I think we made some cool progress. I'm glad to show you guys the legendary monsters. Feel free to keep pinging me in Discord. I'm currently working my way through. I think I had like 20 something notifications, and I got it down to 18, and now it's going back up. But I've mostly been head down and working, and not going over the comments just yet. But I'm taking moments like this to go through the comments and make the changes to make sure I understand them before I change anything or break anything. Okay, so I'm going to keep working on the GM guide and some other things. But every day, I'm working on this every single day, making progress every single day. Okay, that's it. I'm tired. See ya.